Josh Rainer is a friend of mine. It's hard to describe exactly who Josh is other than he has a relentless pursuit of self-experimentation. I met Josh in the wake of COVID-19 and arguably the peak of his dietary exploration. On the surface, what Josh does seems extreme, and that's because it is. But this highlights a fascinating point in the average person. They have no idea what the food they put into their mouth comes from or does to their body. They have only been told that it is safe. Josh is iconoclastic, and even though I could argue that his path has some obvious risks, his pursuit of knowing for himself is a reward that many of us will never come to realize. In this conversation, we dive into carnivore, raw primal, and yes, even the sugar diet. But instead of promoting this as a definitive guide to whether any of these diets are the answer, I would like to point out that they aren't, and that the subject of diet is much deeper than whether it causes weight loss or lean mass gain. As is stated by the ancient Greek wisdom, food is literally medicine. It is a foundational piece to our biome, neurochemistry, and even our behavior. Admittedly, there is no such thing as a perfect diet, but that shouldn't mean you should throw your hands up and eat whatever you want. What this conversation with Josh reveals is that what you feed yourself is important, but more so how you discover it. Please enjoy my conversation with Josh Rainer.
Man looks in the abyss. There's nothing staring back at him. At that moment, man finds his character. And that is what keeps him out of the abyss. I think I understand.
You look very different.
Well, you know what's funny is I get that all the time, but I continually get that because I don't always seem to like have a final, this is my look now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's evolving.
Because I had long hair. When you met me, I had long hair and a big beard. I had that for 10 years.
And no shirt.
Well, yeah, not sure. If I was still in that good of a shape, I probably wouldn't be wearing a shirt right now.
You still have a shirt on?
Yeah. But I had that for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I was just like, hi, man, I'm over it.
Yeah.
You know, want to change. So I just one day decided to shave my whole head and beard.
Yeah.
Like just everything, clippers down to nothing. And it felt amazing.
But did it feel weird to look at yourself?
Yes, because keep in mind, I hadn't seen my face.
Yeah.
And especially my upper lip had been like 12 years. Since I was in college.
Because you had a mustache.
I had a mustache, yeah. So I hadn't seen my full, like, unfettered face since I was, like, 21. And I did this at, like, 32 years old. You know? So, like, I missed that whole time of my life. Like, not really knowing what I looked like. And I was like, damn, I'm a handsome guy. What was I doing this whole time?
Covering yourself.
But the craziest thing was breathing out of my nose. I could feel it hit my skin.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, that's trippy.
Yeah, it is weird, huh?
If you're continually clean shaven, you don't notice it. You totally used to it.
No, it goes away.
But if you haven't had a beard and you shave it off, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, it's new square footage.
Yeah.
You haven't felt that.
Well, it's been protected.
It's like desensitized, yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that's wild. So, like, walk me through. I think you, I'll introduce it like this because I really think like, people will look at what you do like you're a fucking crazy person.
Yeah.
Right. And they will, and I'll never hear the end of it. I also don't disagree with them. Just to be fair.
I don't either.
He's out there. But one of the things that I don't think a lot of people understand is that you have the chops to be able to go experiment with ideas that you find compelling. And I want to frame it because a lot of them, first of all, are really bad ideas. But why I find that inspiring is not the bad idea thing, but the way that you were like, I'm going to fucking go head first and just like try to figure out this concept, even though it might not work, even though it might potentially be dangerous, but because you want to know something about the subject or the behavior or the thing that you're after. And I think that why I like that is because I think that is now a rare quality in a society that obviously has so much commentary and no experience, right? So everybody has an opinion about what you're doing, but they have no experience to draw that opinion. They're basically just like hearing what somebody told them, this is bad, and then they're yelling that back at you. It's the Mr. Smith problem from The Matrix. Yeah. And one of the things that I've always looked at you as like, man, you're just fucking doing it. And like, I look at you as somebody that does not give a shit about the commentary. You just want to know for yourself, for better or worse.
Well, I mean, I have to find out. That's, it's fun. I was on a hike today with a friend, and it's funny. I still didn't quite. You probably know what it is. Like it's like the Native American like beef bar. Bison
Pemmican.
Pemmican.
Yeah, pemmican. Yeah.
So I couldn't remember what it was because we were talking about like what you do when you go backpacking and stuff, and like how you're trying to get more calories. You're not looking for some like what's healthy. You're like, no, I need to survive. What are the densest source of calories I can do? And so you put beef tallow or bison tallow, some dried meat and some berries and honey, and I could not remember what it was. And he's like, you could just Google it right now. It's like, yeah, but I don't want to Google it. I want to remember what it is. So for like, I love puzzles. I love games. I love word problem, whatever it is, but only if I can figure it out. So for me, it's like, I don't want the answer. I want my answer. I want to actually arrive at it. Like the cliche, like the journey is the destination. And so for me, it's like, I don't read studies, right? Like I will look at a study to get an idea, but I'm not looking at that as, oh, this is the answer to whether this is good or not. It goes, here's a framing of it. Is this something I want to explore and experiment with? Because only then will I apply it to myself. I'm the study. I'm the N=1.
I like that premise, and I'll kind of like, I want to ask kind of a follow up with that because I want to know where that came from. I don't have a dissimilar approach to studies. I do want to know like what has been what I call homogenized in observation, which is like what has happened to the average person with average outcome with like specific stimulus. That's kind of what science is kind of discovering. What I think is fascinating about almost all studies is that outliers ruin the study because we're looking for the median. We're looking for the average result. But like a lot of people will note, if you're looking for an average result, really be careful about what that means. So if I'm like following what the quote unquote good average is, the average person is like divorced, obese, has like 3 or 4 comorbidities, and has less than $1,000 in the bank account. Is that really the average that you want to aim for through whatever? I know I'm like narrowing that down, but really when you think about the average person, they're probably not who you want to be. And therefore following the, I don't know, sets and reps, as it were, of any kind of like study really lands you in the fucking middle of shitty.
Well, it's not even you, right? The whole point is that if we apply this to the population at scale, what will create the effect for the most people, right? What is going to be like the average? Where's the meat in the middle of this thing? But every other person is totally just left out to dry. And it doesn't make any sense to apply that to individuals. It makes sense to apply that to populations.
Yeah.
And the problem is that then when you're looking at the actual cause and effect of things, are you doing an observational study? Are you doing, blind studies where, all these different controls and stuff like that? Like, what's the classic thing is like double blind, randomized controlled study. And it's like, that's the gold standard. But like, what are you actually trying to accomplish with any of that? And why, like, who wants, like, most people by definition are average, but each person is only average because they're all over the place on a whole bunch of things that then settle them into an average. Yeah. But if they're trying to achieve one individual thing, they're not going to be average on any of those things. They're just going to be all over here. They're going to be basically a combination of outliers that then average out to this.
Yeah, I think I had this happen the other day. Probably one of our both are familiar with Lane Norton's stuff and how like he's a fairly polarizing figure, which I can always appreciate. And he puts out really good information. But he put out this study the other day on strength training when applied to soccer players over the course gives them like X outcome. And it was basically like a slow clap for his own methodology. Like, yeah, I back squat and deadlift and press, and this looks like it's the best outcome when they applied 3 different mechanisms to see what the best outcome was. And you're like, are you a soccer player? And like, also, who fucking cares? Like this is what gets me with like most things when people are like, what is it's always an either or with people. So they're like, the best thing to do in the gym is X. And you're like, are you limited to one thing that you can do in the gym? Like the best way to train is X. And you're like, given no other variety, you could totally be correct. But also, who is making these limitations where I only have to eat one food, or I have to have one kind of sleep, or one kind of meditation practice, or one kind of cardiovascular activity? And you're like, that to me just speaks to the nature of studies. I understand that the scientific revolution was phenomenal because it did dispel quite a bit of dogma and superstition. It really did have a purpose, but it has, like others note, become its own religion in some cases, right?
Well, more than anything, I find it boring. I find it lazy, and I just find it not effective. Like what works for me is different all the time. Like I'm a different person every day. What my body is going through, I'm in a different state. And so I'm riding the roller coaster. I'm trying different things all the time. So when I dive into something, I really want to understand that. So I will go into that world, and that becomes my whole world. And then I'm going to come out of it because I want to see what is the actual benefit. Is there something there? Is there a nugget? I'll go find the nugget, and I'll go take it on, and I'll continue down the path till I find the next cave. But you have to go into the cave to see what's in there.
Okay, so let's start here then. I met you at an intersection of, I would say you were trying very dogmatic dietary disciplines, which I think you still are, but I met you at probably the convergence of very strict carnivore guidelines with, I would say, good outcomes, you say?
Yeah, I mean, I had very good results with carnivore for a period of time.
Okay, and we'll get in so you can, and I'll just kind of set, and then it went into more like a raw primal and raw meat, but then turned into other things, and then eventually that led you down towards different lifestyles, like almost different work and occupation because of the diet. Am I right on that?
Yes, but I think really what you're identifying is that, and this is why I feel so strongly about this stuff, is everything is making you a different person.
I totally agree.
And it's not just it's one thing to get on a trend and you I'm doing CrossFit. That means I'm doing paleo. I'm going to eat so much bacon right now, right? That's why it's like a trend. That's one thing. But it's another thing when you actually start applying things to your physiology and it starts changing you on a molecular level, because now you're a different person and you are thinking a different way, you are feeling a different way, you're behaving a different way. And yes, there's all these other confounding things because we associate things with each other. And so if you think, well, if I'm doing this thing, I might have to do that thing. And you find there's a lot of associations between, there's a guy I used to train with, he's on Instagram, I think his handle is Strong Camps. His name's DJ Murakami. And he does a lot of really interesting stuff. He dabbles in all different kinds of training methodologies. He's an experimenter. And I really like that about him. I think it was during COVID or so, he started doing this thing on his Instagram where he would, where you can ask people a question and it said, tell me your diet and I will guess your training methodology and your political views. And he was closer than he wasn't, right? And so part of that is because people get into things in a package deal. And also because when you do a diet, it changes who you are. There's this meme from some kind of a Hindu, guru something, that it's vegetarianism makes you more like this and more like that and more like that. And I remember I posted it when I was carnivore. I'm like, why would I want to be any of those things?
Passive.
It makes you very peaceful and passive. And it's I don't want to be those things. But if I were to become vegetarian, I would become those things. So the diet, and I've just felt too much. And you've seen it. I become a different person when I try something different because I am different by trying it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm smiling mostly because I think if I was going to predict what my specialty will be, when all of this is said and done, will be that I have perhaps a special insight into how people move and how that enforces their behavior and character, their identity, essentially. Because I agree, I think a lot of people forget this, but physiology and biology and psychology it's all the same. It's all nature. Like it's all part of the same substructures, right? They all influence each other. So the fact that we think that we can be placed in an environment and that won't change us is ridiculous. You go live in like, Cambodia, it's going to be very different than if you go live in Nairobi or you go live in Papua New Guinea or wherever the different environment is. And then you take that out and you take, somebody from that environment and you move them to New York City or you move them to Japan, Tokyo, or something like that. You're like, how would the environment not change who you are quite literally just from the influence of how people respond? Like you walk around, New York City, people's attitudes is going to influence your own attitude because we're like this like weird vibrational being that absorbs resonance and then reflects it back.
So what's really funny is, I live in LA by the beach, and that's where I grew up. It's where I'm from. And I was spending a lot of time in New York lately. I noticed this the other day when I was back home. And I walk along like the beach, they call it the Strand, right? It's the little path right next to the beach. And when I walk, I tend to walk slower than the people around me. I've noticed that. I'm like, why is that person walking fast? I don't feel like I'm walking slowly. But if I were to walk faster, I would feel like it was uncomfortable. So I'm just going to walk at the pace I want to, but that person's getting further away from me. And I notice that as like a pattern. When I'm in New York, I am the fastest person on the street. And I was trying to figure out why. And I think part of it is when I'm at the beach, I'm just chilling. I'm not really like in a rush. I'm relaxed. Like I'm being influenced by this environment where it's just like, this is cool. I'm in the sun. It's nice, whatever. When I'm in New York, it's busy. It's in wintertime, it's colder. And so I'm trying to get there. I'm going somewhere. And so all of a sudden I'm picking up my pace and I'm walking faster than all these New Yorkers who presumably are fast walkers because they're New Yorkers themselves. So like, why am I slower than the beach people and faster than the New York people?
Because you're from California, so you're cold in New York trying to get your
that's the easiest answer. That's the easiest answer.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. And I think that is maybe, and maybe that's why we're both fascinated by maybe the same things. Like, I was also captivated when, I want to say, I can't remember the guru that talked about it, but it was like in the early 19th or early 20th century, like 1920s, when like Eastern philosophy was coming here, and they were noting like a vegetarian diet puts you at peace and it makes you calm. And I'm like, why do you want to be calm? I want to be like after it. I want energy. I want to like, I don't want to be at peace. Like my whole philosophy can be like, probably predicated on the concept of discontent, right? Like I being happy and passive is like complacency.
Well, I'm pretty sure I've told you once that I think your largest motivating drive is spite.
I believe
I was like kind of kidding, but
no, I don't. I think for a really long time that is 100% true. But I also think that when you're starting, you have to use what source you have, right? And you have to use whatever is most flammable. And so, yeah, people not believing in you, people putting you down, people like questioning you, betraying you, all of those concepts, those light kind of a match in a certain quality of person. Some people they destroy, right? Some people wallow in it, and that's kind of the difference of how, I mean, we look at it this way too. Like most vegetarians are prey.
Yeah.
Most carnivores are predators. And the difference between being a victim and being a victor really has to do with your sense of agency in the world. It's just a concept about whether you think that you can enforce your will on the world or the world enforces its will on you. That's like, generally speaking, these are very broad. I'm not accusing anybody of being, but there's a decision you have to make whenever something happens to you. And that's how much control do I have over the situation?
It's the Nietzschean will to power.
And it's Plato, it's Socrates, we're talking about like fundamental concepts of like, are we just a byproduct or are we the product? And I think I go a step further to say like that, like when you go from victim to victor to like, I can win this situation if I try hard, work hard, pay attention, put my effort into something to change my circumstances. I think that that usually happens because something bad happens to you, right? Like something enforced in your environment or your circumstances or your relationships, something enforced something painful enough that you wanted to move. It caused so much discomfort that you didn't want to feel that. Like if you study, I'm a big fan of biographies lately. Like I read tons of biographies, and it's like almost inevitably the driver between billionaires and like the most successful people is like a childhood trauma of poverty, where they feel so uncomfortable and self-conscious and out of whack that they like dedicate their entire lives to making massive sums of money no matter what.
So, okay, this is like a perfect segue here, because in many ways, like what you were describing before was learned helplessness, like when you're just not doing anything. And so that was something that Ray Peat talked about a lot. And it's funny because I think I just tweeted this yesterday or the day before. Someone had posted some excerpt from some random book or something that said, when it comes to migration time for birds, they actually begin to feel immense amounts of pain, which can only be ameliorated by flight. So there's this sense of discontent with, they're getting a signal from their environment that is causing them immense amounts of pain, that is saying, you need to go fly thousands of miles right now.
So it's not towards something. They're literally trying to get away from.
They're getting but at the same time, you could think that, well, which direction are they flying towards? There must be this kind of orienting system that goes, from a high pressure or low pressure, whatever you want to call it.
It's like the opposite of a flame almost, right? I go closer, it burns. I move away from it, it feels better.
Yeah. So it's like a repulsive magnet, right? I posted this Ray Peat quote that he said something about like one of the worst feelings that a person can have is feeling trapped, and not having the feeling to just get up and move is one of the most destructive things, which is why like being in jail is so
punishing,
right? Because you just don't have the freedom of movement. And one of the kind of studies or examples that Ray Peat often pointed to about learned helplessness was studies they did with mice or rats, right? Now, they would put these rodents, whatever they are, in like a cylinder of water, and they would have them, swim until they would drown.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, yeah.
If they were given basically a way out at some point, like some sort of step was given in there or a ramp was slid in there after a certain point, their following effort would be substantially greater. Yeah. Versus eventually, because, once they would kind of give up and like drown, then, obviously like they killed a lot of mice doing study and stuff. But I think they probably did something where, they would eventually like rescue it after it was drowned. Eventually they just were like, I'm just going to give up and drown because there's no point. And similarly, he pointed towards, if you're suffering pain, when they tell you to bite down on something, giving yourself a positive action, that actually does ameliorate the pain, because you are feeling like you have control over something in your life, which is why the whole idea of little wins, it's such a cliche, but it's so grand. And that's why, like, every male activity, if you think sports, military, fraternities, there's always this hazing process of breaking you down and building you up, right? By doing that, you have to give yourself this sort of accomplishment that goes, I got better, now I'm going to put in more effort, and I got better, and I'm more effort. You do it in a group setting, and now these men really work together, and they're bonded for forever. And there's why, like, when you're teaching, like my son's about to be 4 years old. When we're like fighting, like we wrestle and stuff, I'm much bigger and stronger than he is, right? So I could kick his ass. But when we're fighting and wrestling, what I'll do is I'll like give him a bunch of resistance. I'll be like a brick wall, and I'll tell him, be stronger. And he pushes and pushes and pushes. And eventually, he took me down. And in his head, he's actually beating me, right? And the thing is, if I never ever let him do that, that would just completely demoralize him.
And you're showing that by consciously increasing effort towards a goal, eventually it will come to you.
Yeah.
And whether that's true in the moment doesn't matter. You're teaching almost the nervous system to expect delayed gratification.
Well, so it's funny. I said like how much I like puzzles, right? when I am not doing well in life, I am just like really suffering, I'm struggling, I'm not happy, I tend to go online and just do a bunch of puzzles. Because I start finishing those and there's a sense of accomplishment because I have to put an effort to do them.
I started puzzling like 2 months ago. And I mean real puzzling.
Like jigsaw puzzle?
Yeah, like I have a board, I have official, like I puzzle almost all the time. I've explained this over the past couple weeks because it's freaking me out. With as much as we have going on, I have very few escapes, right? Like jujitsu is a puzzle of some sort, but I can't control the outcome. And therefore, most days, because of who I train with, it's a beatdown. Like I will not win anything. I will have no progress. I will feel worse about jujitsu day to day than almost ever. Training is like a job. So it's like my outcomes for that are kind of like, predicated on whatever I'm focusing on for the business. So it doesn't feel like it's my own pursuit anymore. However, everything else, reading, all that stuff kind of like just died down. I didn't have anything. Like I didn't really have anything that I liked to do. I was going for walks, but I was like starting to boil a little bit, right? I was like not having good outcomes because I've been in like a trench for a very long time with no positive feedback. And I know where I'm at, kind of. Like I get lost sometimes where I'm like, this is so pointless. I want to disappear. Like that penguin, I fucking like that guy. That guy was like an avatar for me.
Well, they kind of said like those who understand the penguin and those who don't. Yeah.
It makes sense, right? And here's the weird thing. I went to visit my friend up in Seattle, and we went up there just because we hadn't seen him for a while. So we sit down, and he can't really train hard anymore because he's on a lot of fucking meds. And he was like, I'm sorry, guys. I puzzle now. That's my activity. And I was like, dude, I'm down to do a puzzle. So he whipped out a new puzzle, 1,000 piece. Terrible puzzle, like Christmas themed because we were up there for Christmas and I fucking hate Christmas. But I was like, yeah, I'll do a fucking puzzle, whatever. 13 hours. We just talked and puzzled. And it was like, for the first time, my like brain went somewhere where it needed to go, where it could have little wins, and the dopamine started kicking in. Because the first, like how hard the first connection is to make.
Oh yeah.
Because you're like, okay, who gets the first?
You want all the border pieces.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're like, okay, and then you make that first connection, and you're like, oh my god, that felt good. You're like, okay, there's more, and then your brain rewards you by increasing its capacity to notice patterns. So you start looking at shapes. And we have this like conversation, me and him back and forth about. Like, what are you, the better
How
you get.
How do you do the puzzle?
Yeah. What is your pattern recognition, and can you change it consciously? Because most people can't. They wait for it to come to them. So their pattern recognition is based off of scanning over and over and over again until they recognize similarities. But other people can start mapping shapes and kind of categorizing them, and mapping colors and categorizing them, and they put them together. And we've come to the conclusion that like the semi-amateur comes to puzzling with color in mind, borders first and then color. The advanced person starts separating on shapes that go together because they know where to search for the subjective shape that they're looking for based on the puzzle, and then color. And so it's like you
have to be pretty far in the puzzle to be looking for specific shapes.
You do, yeah. But if you start that process up front, then you will recognize the shape of the puzzle then. So we finished this puzzle, and funny enough, like his dog ate 5 pieces, and we were like,
I would be so,
dude, here, this is mad. I would be
inconsolable.
So we came back. Yeah, it was pretty destructive actually. We were like pretty bummed. So we came back, and like he sent us a puzzle because he's like, here you go. And I had already bought in like 15. I was off to the races. I got a puzzling board. It's on our table all nights. I'd already completed 4 puzzles. I'd like been going down. He's like, oh, you actually are like doing it. So he started sending me hard puzzles. And he sent me this one, and I'll probably end up
like
making
10,000 pieces, all one color.
It's 1,000. It's one color. It's a jigsaw puzzle in white outline printed on a black, slightly offset actual puzzle.
Okay.
It's a puzzle of a puzzle, but none of the lines, like, they don't match up. So you're looking at like something that's distracting you from seeing both the shape and there's no color to go off of. So he got this, he sent it to me, and I was like, dude, do you hate yourself? And he's like, I do. And so I ordered like something similar. I haven't started mine. Well, literally the other day, he's going to surgery, and he was like, I'm almost done with that puzzle. I was like, no way. And I was like, how long did it take you to make the first piece? He's like, 4.5 hours to make one piece. And now he's like, I got a quarter of it. He's like, I'm going to finish it before I go into surgery. And I was like, right on, man. I was like, just so we back up, the warning on this puzzle that was for sale says, maybe it's not for you to finish, but for you to learn how to quit. And so he sends me a picture and he's like, this is unreal. And I'll post the picture. It's the puzzle and it's missing one fucking piece.
And it comes like that.
No, it's his dog ate it. The one piece is just fucking missing. And I go, that might be the most epic thing that might be like the allegory to life. And so I was like, whatever I will pay to frame that thing. Leave the fucking piece out. He bought another one because he was going to go find the one piece just to shove it in, because he is also full of spite. Yeah. So on the concept of puzzling, like the more you talk about it, I have reached these brain states where I didn't realize, like I'm a fairly conscious, like aware person about my behavior and when I'm feeling like low or high or excited. And I have not been able to pinpoint why I feel so shitty. And puzzling allowed me to like literally go, oh, I need like little incremental rewards. So slight tangent, but like on your subject.
No, but like I mean, that's the interesting thing is, and I was having a conversation with a friend not too long ago, because at this, I'm not saying I've like figured anything out really, but at this point I've discovered how many different foods, substances, supplements I can use to augment my state in different ways. Yeah. And knowing that like the average person just has no awareness of anything whatsoever. They're like, I had Taco Bell and Domino's and I don't feel great. I have stomach ache. You know? Whereas I'm like, I think my serotonin's a little high right now. Or like my dopamine's low or whatever, you know. Cortisol, I'm not saying like I'm perfectly attuned, or at least at the very least, the thing that I think I'm identifying, if it's not completely right, it's like directionally correct, or it represents something true. And then it became, okay, well, what if I don't have access to those things? If I don't have that supplement X, I go, I know exactly what would cure me right now, supplement X, but I don't have supplement X. So what else can I do? Okay, well, I can go to food. What if I don't have the right foods available to me? And then there's things like movement, breath work. You know, you have to discover all of those layers to it. But it has been that because, you know, we were talking about my diet, and it really was in carnivore because, you know, do you remember the whole thing that like I kept saying and Keegan kept saying about it quiets the noise? Yeah. Right. When it came to digestion, because for me, digestion's always been my biggest issue. I was bloated my entire childhood, and I would be constipated for days at a time when I was a little kid, and it's just miserable. And all of a sudden that was just gone. And then I got to just experience what was left when that wasn't there. And it's all these amazing things. Now, eventually my body just did not like going that low carb for that long of a time. Like I've told this story before, but like the most I've ever, like, I don't even know what happened. I just blacked out. Like 8,000 calories later, I consumed every carbohydrate like I could possibly get my hands on. And it just happened. I had no control over what was happening. I raided my pantry, raided my fridge. I went to the store. I ate a whole thing of raw cookie dough. It was just like, and I could not stop. And like, okay, yeah, my body's like, dude, you need
telling you something.
Yeah, you need carbs. But the digestion thing was very, very, it was clarifying in a lot of ways.
I would agree with pretty much everything that you said. It's a great intervention. It is not a long format solution to like pretty much like everything.
Yeah, and I get that like some people they do it because they have to, and there are ways to make it work. But like your life isn't how do I make carnivore diet work, or you know, like that's just not the point. Yeah. So, but what that did was it made me very aware of little fluctuations, and then that's kind of where I started to lose my mind a little bit, because like a drug addict is pursuing that high. I was pursuing the high of total clarity, and eventually, when you don't eat enough fiber and you give yourself nothing to ferment, you basically have thrown off the gut biome in different ways.
Totally, yeah.
So you can lose good bacteria, which means eventually when you come off the diet, you're now repopulated with a worse biome.
Yeah, dysbiosis and other things start to happen. Yeah.
And so then that's when I started going towards the raw stuff, because raw meat digested even better than cooked meat did.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
And then there was, some experimentation with psychedelics, which make you very, very aware of your digestive system and whether anything is causing an issue, that then led me to this like intense search for purity. Not like purity of the body on a whole,
so I remember
but like purity in here.
Yeah.
Because I just felt like once that was thrown off, because the gut is the mind.
Yeah.
It seemed like all of what I believe to be my mental issues were just caused in the gut. And me being told I had ADHD my whole life was just having gastrointestinal distress.
Yeah.
And then I just sort of lost it, because I just kept pursuing, if I just go harder into this thing, and before you know it, I had gained a bunch of weight, my energy was gone. I had lost the plot, as they say.
Yeah, let me pin you down on like one of those things. So carnivore, logically, kept you lean, enough energy to, train and be muscular and how you wanted to appear or something like that. But the feeling you were going over was mostly just this satisfaction of, not upset in the gastrointestinal. And you kind of pin down like, oh, there's like a bacterial deficit, which I think is really important, because when people are talking about nutrition, I always say that they leave out one of the most important aspects when they're describing carbs, fat, and protein and micronutrients. And you're like, you have not accounted for a lack of bacteria that also needs to maintain balance through raw foods or, supplementation or something like that. I think people completely miss how important the balance of different bacteria is, and how that can like completely throw one way or the other. Like we have all the, we talk about like getting E. coli or getting, some kind of bacterial infection in the gut, but you have all of those
already
bacteria.
Yeah.
They just become unbalanced when you don't have things to keep them at bay. It's almost like an arms race, right? In your gut, what makes your gut a civilization?
Well, that's why they call it a biome. Right?
Totally, yeah.
You have an ecosystem.
Yeah.
And if
it's like Russia and the US.
If you get rid of the wolves, then you have an overpopulation of deer, and then they eat everything. Yeah. And it's the reintroduction wolf story. Right. You're doing that on some scale.
Yeah. So I agree with you. And like, to be fair, I also didn't notice, probably I was, I guess I benefited from never having stomach issues. Like, I have a very good biome, and kind of on accident. But when I look back, I was eating a lot of raw food, like growing up. One of the first diets I did besides like paleo was like a macrobiotic diet that was about sprouted grains and fermented cabbage and fermented vegetables. And I didn't know that's why I was doing it. I was just following kind of like thinking that these weird form of health foods fermented made them more digestible, made the nutrition more accessible, which it did, but
it brings with it the bacteria.
Yeah, and I didn't know that's why it was. Now, to be fair, when I was doing that, I did not feel, that was one of the only times I felt like gastral distress, because I was eating raw cabbage and shit, which is a different thing. Cruciferous vegetables still aren't like the best thing, but eventually I think I came to the same conclusion you did, albeit a little bit faster. In carnivore, I got about 6 months out of it before I was like, okay, like not only palate fatigue, but also what now? Because am I supposed to just like, I feel good, but not great. I feel like I'm missing an angle. And then by that time you were going kind of headfirst into Primal Raw. And I mean headfirst, like, I should say like egg first. You were just fucking downing raw eggs, which I could never do, but walk me through that.
Yeah, I mean, I started just eating raw meat as it was.
Can we just, because somebody's going to comment on this. You ate a live chicken.
No, it was not live.
Or sorry, you ate a chicken, a raw chicken live on Instagram.
Yeah, I did on Instagram live. And that, like, a lot of people to this day, they're like, that's how I know you. Because I saw you eat a video of you eating a raw chicken on camera.
Now, explain that. Like, because I get it, but most people will not understand what is the theory behind that. Now we don't have to go into the details of like terrain, but in your head, when you were like, I need bacteria, where you're like, well, raw chicken's a good source.
Well, okay. The basic thing of like how I really like got into doing it in the first place was I was living in Venice at the time, and the house that I was living at did not have air conditioning, and it was the summer, and the windows were like older wooden framed windows, so they did not seal properly. So during the winter, when the wind came through, obviously it's Southern California, it doesn't get cold, but like it was very drafty in there. And then during the summer, it was unbearably hot. And I'm eating just like ribeyes all day.
Yeah.
And I'm just so hot all the time.
Yeah.
And if I were to cook, then my house would get all hot and stuff like that. So I was just like, it'd just be much more appetizing if I could just eat my steak cold and raw. And I had experimented with raw. I mean, I ate sushi my whole life. I like tartare. When I was just coming out of college, I worked at CrossFit Mean Streets with Ronnie Teasdale, and I got into some weird stuff because
So did he.
Yeah. And so I was like eating like raw liver back then and raw milk, and so I was like, well, I've eaten raw meat before. It's from a good source. It's fine. And then I would eat it, and I'd be like, there's like nothing in it. Doesn't feel like there's nothing in my stomach. This is the feeling I'm searching for. This is the truth, right? That's like how you buy into like crazy cult like stuff. Is you're like, this is it. This is the answer. And so, of course, this is 2020. This is COVID. We're all very atomized. I have nothing to do but be on my phone all day. And I'm on social media, and people are talking about all these crazy diets, and of course, like, anti-vax, all that kind of stuff. And you're just like, everything we've ever been told is a lie. Dude, the earth is flat. We never went to the moon. You're not supposed to cook your food. And I'm just like, sure, why not? If
I feel good like
if
this,
I feel good like this,
the other
it's like, what else actually matters?
Yeah.
Right. So then there was Autogenous von der Planets, the raw primal diet. And I just sort of like made his book my Bible and started slowly following that stuff. What's funny is I didn't really go off the deep end. I was just eating more raw meat and stuff. And this is all while I was coming here and visiting you guys. And I mean, you guys, I was still doing really well. I had started introducing like more carbs and stuff. And so I was feeling much better. I was doing jujitsu, honey, raw goat milk, feeling great. And then it came time when I was going to move here. And I'll never forget this because I'm extremely, extremely vain.
Yeah.
Right. Like no one in fitness is not vain.
Sure.
Right. And of course, you have a certain level of narcissism to try all these things and post pictures of yourself with your clothes off on the internet, kind of a thing. And I remember I was doing a workout here. It was my first day. I was in February of 2021, and I was here looking for a place to live.
Yeah.
And I was doing a workout. I remember like Sean was next to me, and I was holding some dumbbell, and I was just like so vascular. I was so lean because I had been eating raw chicken breast as a protein source I was like shredding up because I was cutting all the fat out of my diet, and I was kind of eating it like a non-fat sushi kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I got super, super lean. And that's like really, it was on like that 2-week trip that I was here that I went full bore into the diet, and I brought my ice cream maker. Do you remember that? I was eating like a pint to a quart of homemade raw milk ice cream every single day, and eating sticks of butter. Yeah. By the time I left here, I was already like fat. Like all of the definition was gone. Yeah. From that.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah.
And I mean, because it's not like people don't call you out here.
No. I always say
doing the ice cream.
I've told so many people this who have no idea who I've never met you. I was like, I know I had a good friend because at one point he's just like, dude, you're fat. And I'm like, thank you. Because like a good friend would tell you.
Totally, yeah. They see what you can't.
And especially when you met me, I was just like
jacked. Yeah.
I was in such great shape.
Yeah.
Yeah. Without getting too far into the details, this whole thing is that when you cook food, you destroy all the nutrients.
Yeah.
You denature the nutrients. You're killing the bacteria, all of that. And I really got into this, like we're supposed to live with this bacteria. There's nothing is supposed to be sterile.
To be fair, it is a great story, actually. Like when you go through, especially terrain theory, when you bring that up for people that like watch this, do your own deep dive. Terrain versus
germ theory.
Yeah, germ theory is like a great rabbit hole to really try to figure out how this concept of germs, which I will agree with you. Like I don't buy into the like,
like the hard line.
Yeah, that germs are the cause of everything and that we should sanitize everything. Like that doesn't make any sense to me because of how we know like biomes work, skin biome, all that stuff.
You know what's funny is from The Office, the character Dwight, right? The weird like Mennonite guy, right? And what's funny is like a lot of the stuff that he says in that show either is true or is this kind of like conspiracy theory kind of thing. And he has that episode where it goes, no, we should have hand desanitizing stations with like all kinds of dirt and and it like it
makes sense.
But
it's like Always Sunny in Philly. Yeah, that show also has like a crazy amount of accuracy in its jokes.
When you are the brain of a person who writes for TV and you're trying to say something that sounds wrong, inevitably you will tell the truth because
wasn't that's this thing with the South Park that just happened when they had that episode about the food pyramid and they're like, oh my god, flip the pyramid upside down,
and then it actually happened. That was like years ago.
I know. And then the RFK thing just happened and where people are like, this is a simulation. Like this is like absurd. And you're like, no, but when people really try to enforce their dogma, which is basically not in the interest of food or health, but in the interest of profiteering, you're going to have those things that make total sense because they're already pushing people in the opposite direction that they should go.
Yeah, it is funny. The truth that you find in media is often so there's this idea that, you know, like the concept like death of the author.
Yeah.
So if the author has a certain intention, then either is the author's intention the only way to read their art, or death of the author, is it the audience who actually gets to decide what it means because they are the ones who are actually observing it.
Yeah.
Right. And so it becomes this kind of thing where a lot of people, and I mean, I have my own political biases, but it tends to happen when people who are on the left side of things try to satirize or come after the right, and then the right actually loves that thing because what the left, if the idea is that left has inverted value system, when they try to paint evil, they actually create good.
Yeah.
Right. So if you subscribe to those kind of things,
and the opposite is also true.
Yeah.
Well, I think it also matches the evolution of language within subculture, how like language will kind of represent a bastardization of the norm, and that will become the cool thing because it's the opposite of the mainstream. So, you know, this is how words change meaning, like how things are like cool or sick or like, you know,
that's bad and bad is good.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally doesn't mean literally.
Right. That inversion happens through substructure and sub-power structure. It's the way for the poor and disenfranchised to take power is to invert things. And I think a lot of people they don't realize that. And so when you're unconscious of like, you say like left or right, but you could say progressive and conservative, not even related to political theory, but just related to the act of thinking that either what we were doing before was better or what we're doing in the future would be better.
Right.
Because that's the real plight of like, of conservatism or liberalism is the idea that we're wrong right now. Something needs to change, and either we made a misdirection in one way or the other. The absurdity of that notion is that whatever way you lean, you're admitting to imbalance, right? You're admitting that it's like you almost can't go forward because you're trying to stabilize yourself. And I make this joke all the time when people are like, you know, I get a lot of people will like, you work too hard, and you're like, you know, the usual when you're obsessed with something and, you know, I don't leave this place for 14 hours a day because I'm like working on something, or, you know, the manual that I just like came out on sleep, I stayed awake for like 3 days and I didn't need to. That was not like a deadline. I didn't want to lose the feeling that I had and the momentum I was like shifting. So in full irony, trying to teach people how to sleep better, I was losing all of my sleep. But I felt that fueled it. Like that was like, oh, this is a great like commentary on it. And you know, not as a side quest a little bit, but that when people like claim that you're imbalanced, you're like, well, how do you think you move forward?
right? You have to pick up one foot.
You imbalance yourself.
And once you pick that one foot up, your whole body has to reorient itself.
Now, sometimes I fall. Sometimes I hit my face, right? And that's like the left.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I fall backwards and I hit my head, and that's the right.
Yeah.
You know, so like this idea, this concept of push or pull, and essentially what I like to say is like there is no answer to it. It just depends on where you want to move. Like if you want to move, because if you're at peace and you're happy how you are, have no opinions. That's really like the best way to do it. Or, you know, I like Naval's quote on this. It's probably my favorite. He's like, if you have a desire for something, you're essentially making a contract with yourself that you're going to be unhappy until you get what you want. That's like the definition of a desire.
That makes total sense. But again, like that means that you have somewhere that you want to go.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they don't know where they want to go. And so, but what I will say though, because kind of tying this back to like what you were saying from the beginning is like how I navigate things is sometimes where I want to go is I just want to learn something new. And usually the thing that I want to learn is something that is kind of being pressed on me in some way, right? Like if I'm sitting here and you're standing on my foot, what I really want is for that pain to be relieved. Right? I want you to no longer be standing on my foot. So if I have some jab in my side, I'm like, I want to go away from this thing.
Yeah.
So now, just like what I was talking about with the bird migration, they experience immense amounts of pain. Otherwise, they would not migrate. Now, think about, you know, like there's that condition that you have where like you don't actually feel pain. Those people end up suffering terrible injuries because they don't have any sort of feedback. They have no survival instincts. Yeah. So you have to have this negative to then have a positive in reaction to it. And this is like when we were talking about like people who get really successful, they have something at some point that put a chip on their shoulder and then began to drive them to do something. You need to be in the pursuit of something.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't have anything that really drives them at all. There's no pursuit. A lot of people's pursuit is kind of aimless. You spiral. That's the thing you don't want to do. So, you know, the question becomes like, how do you make sure that you sort of have some kind of compass that's driving you somewhere?
And that's why people turn towards institutions to kind of give them that focus, whether it's like political or religious or educational or institutional. There's some kind of body of people or bureaucracy that you trust because they've had X amount of success with, you know, ways of living, that you go, they must have the answer so that I don't have to reinvent all of this stuff. But the problem with those those structures are they're homogenized. And they have very harsh or strict kind of like encompassing, I would say, I don't know, association. So you can't associate to like a religion unless you abide by their rules, or it becomes very cult-like. And this takes people's agency away, which they're trying to do, right? They want to take away the amount of mistakes you can make, arguably. So they're telling you that these are the rules, so or the sins that you must not commit, or something like that. And I always find this really fascinating because maybe it's just my personality, maybe it's your personality. I reject institutions a lot of the time. And I don't
like
think,
institutions at all.
Right. And I don't think that, in all honesty, I have to admit that institutions are like pretty good for like the majority of people.
Well, that's the thing. This goes back to what we were talking about. Yeah, but just like, well, most people, like what are, like by definition, most people, they are in this average middle of the bell curve. So most people fit into that.
Yeah. Or want to, maybe it's just a human, like we are kind of like herd animals to some degree, right?
We're cattle.
Yeah. To, you know, not like ruminants, but, you know, close, because if you've been in like a massive group of people and you've felt these waves of like, if somebody gets worried or something amps up the energy in the crowd of like a concert, or like, it doesn't even have to be anything violent. You can just like feel the thing shifting, right? And you're like, you're helpless. Wherever direction the crowd moves, you have to go. And, you know, that's a very acute syndrome that's happening within, like, say, a riot or a concert or something. But there's the reason you pick up on those senses, and those senses carry over to your daily life. So when you're, when we're looking at, let's say, diet, like we're talking about, and you're wondering why you can't get the, I try everything. And you're like, have you tried quitting your job and leaving your spouse and like, getting around people that actually like behave and eat and look or train or can or are capable of the things you're capable of or want to be capable
Have you
of.
put yourself in the right crowd?
Right, and absorbed their energy, because then it becomes effortless.
Well, so you were talking about institutions, but like, I find this really funny because you are effectively like a cult leader. You know what I mean?
Not consciously.
But this is like, we're people, we're tribal. And the reason why you would suggest for someone, maybe don't say, hey, don't quit your job and leave your spouse, though for some people that would be the right answer. But hey, can you put yourself around better people? If you put yourself around the people you want to be like, you will inevitably become more like those people. And just like we were talking about, if you were to go from Cambodia to New York and your environment is changing, people are also part of your environment. Now we could talk about, is there some sort of transmutation of electrical signals from people? Are we picking up on pheromones? I mean, we could go into that. Who cares? The whole point is that you are being affected by everything. But at the same time, you are you in your own way that no one else can. So like you've gotten really into human design, right?
Yeah.
Or at least at times you were. I find all of these things fascinating. Like when I talk to anybody, I am looking at everything about them that I can pick up on.
Yeah.
I am looking at the shape of their face and their skull. I am looking at their posture. I analyze their gait. I am looking at the clothes that they wear, how they've decided to style themselves. The average person picks up on things subconsciously.
Right.
Mine is very, very conscious. And so everything about somebody I think is useful. And even the things that aren't visible, you can take in human design, zodiac, astrology. You can take in someone's blood type. You can take in their ethnic makeup, whatever it is that starts putting in this picture. In a way, it's another puzzle. It's a way of understanding people and thinking about who actually they are. And you take someone and you look at them and see how they've changed. Well, that person has done a new diet, has been around new people, has moved, has tried different things have happened to them. And that's why it always has to come back to yourself. For me, it's me. For you, it's you. It has to be you, because only you actually knows all these little things. But unfortunately, the average person doesn't know those things, but only you can figure them out, which is why I experiment. And it's also why I'm less concerned with this purity type thing, because if you notice results in something that aren't from, I went to live in the middle of the woods and I ate nothing but like fresh caught fish and meat that I hunted myself. And you can go like, look, I did that as close as I possibly could. I mean, even forget Primal for what it was. I went and I lived on a farm and I was eating like the highest quality foods that I could. And I still wasn't really finding my way back until I got into a more performance-oriented mindset. And I don't mean like what my back squat was. I mean my life as performance. The way that I feel.
Human performance.
Human performance in every single expression. How are my ideas? How's my personality right now? How am I with other people? If I used to live in the gym and my feedback was always like, how many reps did I get? How fast did I do? Whatever it is. But now when my life is mostly networking, I go, how good was I? How much fun was I having? How sociable was I? Like, was I able to talk to that girl really easily and casually, or was I just crashing and burning? All these little elements, like how productive I am, how creative I am. All these little things you start to feel, and then you realize that, and I'm not telling anyone to do anything in particular. I'm just saying like what I've done. And that's why, at least for me, getting into Ray Peat was this kind of like threshold to cross to get out of this. I can only eat like organic, everything perfect. And you go, okay, look, there's all these substances, maybe they're supplements, maybe they're even pharmaceuticals. Are they actually working? Are they helping? And, there's this whole world of peptides now. I haven't even gotten into that stuff. And it's kind of terrifying because the more powerful something is, the way more dangerous it is.
100%. Yeah.
And I'm open. Like, the world is going somewhere that we just cannot even fathom. And what it means to be human, and I'm not saying like, oh, dude, like, let's just be like this transhumanist cyborg thing. Right. All I know is there are some things that I do that really, really help me. And those things, to me, a few years ago would have felt like that's too unnatural. And it's like, I'm not taking steroids, or I'm just taking like weird supplements. You know what I mean? Yeah. But a supplement that attaches like, or attacks like a certain neurotransmitter or a certain receptor for one thing. This is an agonist, this is an antagonist. And you go, oh shit. That's what that was? So like, I've struggled with insomnia my entire life. It has been something that has just been, I just would be up all night, struggle to fall asleep. And when I was living my life as if I were a professional athlete, when my diet was dialed in, I was training 5 to 6 days a week, this and that, I still didn't have the sleep that I wanted, but I had the ability to sleep in a little bit, and I was like making it work. Well, now I'm on the road like 15, 20 days a month. Yeah. And I'm not really working out that much because I don't have the chance to. And I'm, when I travel and I'm going like across the coast to coast, and even like 3 hours, that creates a jet lag. And every time I would like fly from LA to New York, or LA to Miami, I'd be up until like 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, my first night there. And I would just feel terrible. And it's like, okay, I'll cut out all caffeine. Doesn't help. Not going to drink any alcohol. We don't have anything planned tonight. I'm going to get in bed at 10. Still laying in bed till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. And then you find these little things, which, oh my God, my cortisol was just totally inverted. My circadian totally inverted. And I just found an anti-cortisol supplement. And you go, I could drink a cup of coffee right before bed. And if I take that, all of a sudden I go to sleep. Now, did I solve the root problem? What is the root cause? Who cares? What is the path of least resistance? Can I start chipping away? Because if I'm like, no, I need to solve the root cause. Well, you're not sleeping now and your life is falling apart.
Well, I mean, the argument there is it's just an exchange of compromises, right? Like, I want to solve this problem. And you could put any problem in front of it, but health is a really great one to put in front of people because a lot of the times they're making these decisions without knowing that they're compromises, or they feel like it's probably disproportionately leveraged against them. And so the first thing that I hear, especially like on the sleep subject, is a really good one, mostly because it's like top of mind. Yeah, you're right. I've just been like in it. And so like when we work with people, usually, they're the go-getters. Like people don't come to us unless they want to like do something different. It's very rare that a complacent fucking person reaches out to me and asks me to help. Like, I scare the fuck out of people like that. They don't want me to look at their life and tell them what they're doing wrong. They stay away. And nothing against them. Like, they should. I would obviously just like be like, your wife sucks. Like, she's keeping you down. I don't like you said, like, I don't really have a filter when it comes to me giving like my perspective on things, because it's literally my job is to look from an outside perspective to try to solve a problem. And therefore, the most people that come to us are like, they've tried things, but a lot of what people try or they're not looking at the real problem. And this is where I go back to like, I would argue in most cases, solving the fundamental problem solves most problems, but it's the most uncomfortable thing to solve because it takes the biggest conversation to get ahead of, which is like, what are you actually trying to get after? And then in which case you're looking at the compromises that come with it. So if you're like working and traveling, like, okay, like if we look at that behavior, is it required? Like, is it necessary? And you're like, yeah, it's my job. It's like, is your job necessary to get what you want out of something? And the reason to go back that far, I think, is because no one ever asks the question. They assume the answer based on the position that they put themselves in. And like you say, and I agree with you, like, you're always changing. you're different every day you wake up. You have like a different cellular makeup, and every 7 years, you're for sure very different. But we usually answer questions once, and then we wonder why they like those things, why we never see those things. Like we make a decision about God and, government and associations and race and religion almost like once, and then we never address it again. But when you start to do something that we call, which is deframing. Right. So and I like to put this forward because I think this is really interesting. When we're like guiding somebody to make a difference, we have a lot of different tools that we can use. There's like supplementation. There's sometimes it's just conversation, because if you think about something differently, isn't that like a leveraging tool? Right. Like if I point out kind of a hypocritical thing that you're doing that's acting against your best interest, you might be like, oh, I never saw it like that. Okay. So language is a tool. Movement is a tool. You identify all these. How many different ways can you change your physiology? Right? That's the question.
Sure.
You're like, fucking so many. I can like play a tune to my brain, like, B minor, and it will make me feel different. It will make my brain work differently. And if I coordinate a bunch of tunes together and do a certain like breath structure with it, I will change my state inevitably, almost like 180 degrees different. We have control over all this stuff. So these are like all the tools that we have. We have diet, we have associations and training, and pretty much the fastest way to train your physiology, change your physiology, is movement in the moment. And then when you look at kind of like how the gurus do it, when they're like, getting people riled up for their culty kind of like self-help seminars, they're making them move, and then they feel different. And then because they feel different, they're associating their different change in state associated with that person. That person made me feel this way, so I want to be around them. I want to buy their book. I want to buy their program. I want to like tell other people about them because they made me feel a certain way. So all of this stuff can be geared against somebody. But realistically, when you break it down, you're breaking down like first and foremost who you think you are as a person. And you identified it like really well, which is like you started to notice that if I incrementally change these like training augments, and for sometimes there's like sunlight exposures, and obviously diet and nutrition, you're noticing like the intricacy with which your behavior is changing. There's also like the subconscious thing, which I, bring out to people, which is we don't notice them, but we can go back and track, right? So who you think you are as Josh is realistically going to be, in large part, a lot of connections and associations and judgments made off of experiences that you've had. Some logical, some illogical, right? Like, at some point, maybe you went to school and somebody made fun of your t-shirt, right? And that person had red hair, and you're like, you just kind of have it in for people that have red hair since then, or something like that. Sure. It's not that drastic, but inevitably, when you start looking at it, all of our interactions start to build our moods, how we feel about ourselves in the moment. And if somebody insults me or compliments me, that will, it's the birds flying south. I'm feeling pain or I'm feeling pleasure, and I'm moving towards this. And what's interesting about human design is basically says that. It's like the second you latch on to a nipple, you become about pleasure and pain. That like you start being conditioned to a world that will make you sit, talk, shut up, go there, go here, get a job, go to school, have a family. It's all based off of like this reward system that we think that we're choosing, but realistically, we're making determinations off the experience and the judgment that we made. That is the identity, actually. So what happens to you gets described a certain way in your head. In your head, you release this like kind of biochemical signature that makes you feel a certain way. And then that reinforces the feeling whenever you think about it. So I think, I feel, and then I have a mood. So something bad happens to you, you're just kind of like, I just feel kind of, right? And that happens for a couple days, and then you have a disposition. And that disposition happens for a couple months, and you have a personality trait. And then that personality trait starts to anchor, and you have a whole fucking identity after a decade where you're like, I'm just a cynic, or I'm just this. But realistically, come back to the framework, we go, how much of this did we construct? You're like, how much of this did we build ourselves? Now, you obviously built this architecture with your diet and experimentation. And maybe you considered a lot of behavior because you are noticing like how people treat you and like what is getting you like good things and, positive outcomes.
There's the reward. It's the reward system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But realistically, you're in control of all of it at any point. You just have to make concessions, because even if we take the most drastic decisions that we made, I decided that I'm Christian, or I'm Muslim, or I'm Buddhist, or whatever. That decision gets made once, but it doesn't ever get re-asked as the construction changes or the behavior changes or my food type changes. And, I made this marriage, made these decisions, had these like relationships, had these business partners, and you go like, when do you re-ask whether that's a good thing for what you are changing into and what you want to become? Now, people will look at this and they'll see that when you make changes because they don't like change, they're like, oh, he's a flip, he just changed, right? It's like that's said as a negative thing, as if we're not here to develop ourselves and move away from experiences.
So that's like what you were that was really interesting, the way you said, you are kind of, since you latched onto the nipple, all of a sudden, all these different pressures and rewards and punishments and pain and pleasure have been kind of like ping-ponging you in your own specific path. Like your path, that's why you are here right now at this moment. But it's not like Pavlov and Skinner were in the other room pressing a button back and forth. No. That was just like your life's own path through, I don't know if I believe in randomness, but like just the chance of the way things shook out, right? So the thing is the moment that you realize that, all of a sudden you can take the reins and say, now I'm in control, or at least I'm going to try to grab the steering wheel here, and I'm going to try to drive it in the direction that I want. And so this is why finding all the tools is so powerful, but it requires you to experiment. Now, some of us get really lucky and we have amazing parents, teachers, mentors to show us certain ropes, but that's only if someone has already kind of figured something out. That at the very least, like we talked about this a long time ago when you were like, why don't you like work with clients? And it's like, I know what works for me. And I tell people, hey, I tried this and maybe this, try that. And you were saying you're too scared of taking the responsibility for someone else and doing
Which is how I define a coach, as somebody who implements or interventions, but then takes responsibility for the outcome and the advice.
Sure.
But I remember what you're talking about.
But, for me, it's just like, I want to keep figuring my thing out, and I share my experiences. And when people ask me questions, I do my best to answer them freely. And I hope that people can use those things to kind of find their own way. But really, it's like, I'm just not done figuring things out.
Totally, yeah.
But I mean, the amount of mind-blowing things that completely alter my perspective on things that continue to happen is why this is still just so much fun. And it's why I'm like, I haven't gotten bored with life, right? Like I just love life, and I love the heartbreak, I love the wins, I love kind of everything in between there. But it is kind of that willingness to kind of keep fighting every day. But it's not always fighting. It's also to keep playing. You have to be willing to, for lack of a better word, just like have fun with it. And it's like, I've taken something and I've been like, that was bad. That was not a good feeling. That was not good. And that doesn't mean that like that thing is evil poison, throw it away. Sure, it's just like, okay, that was hot. I'm going to take some time away from that thing. But like you mentioned like the movement thing. And I know like you've really gotten into that. For me, movement is the thing that I have the hardest time, even though I've spent my whole life as an athlete. Yeah. When I think of movement, I think of the real kind of nitty gritty deep stuff that's beyond just like, okay, do a back squat, right? It's like, totally. How can you get these individual joints? Cause I know the reverse feeling that when I have a certain, like, if I get really bloated, my whole back locks up, obviously, right? Because now my abdominal wall is distended, and the only way to brace my spine is through the back. Yeah. And then you feel all of these sort of emotional downstream things that come from that. That's the thing that I've struggled with, because it's very, very easy to make a change to what you put in your mouth, which is why I put so much emphasis on diet, because I think it's where people have the most agency. If you were to tell someone, it's like, hey, your problem, you need to do this, like, FRC thing on your hip, and you're like, this is so hard. And I know, because like I've worked with people and all this kind of stuff, and unless they're right there with me,
it's hard.
It's so hard. I'm like, am I even doing this right? And I get really, really frustrated. I get upset, and I don't want to do this. I want to do this. I don't like this.
That's the deprivation before the reward, right? It's like
it's the meme of the guy with the pickaxe and like all the gems are right there.
Yeah,
and it's just like
I'm gonna give up. But
I will say sometimes though, like these things are so specific and particular that you're actually doing it wrong. Like how many times have people been prescribed planks in workouts, and you see what their plank looks like, and you go like that. You need to stop. You're not getting better.
That's actually a really great acknowledgement, because I agree with you 100%. This is why remote coaching and exercise prescription is largely based on a massive falsehood that like patterns that we have names for elicit some kind of magical unlock.
If you just do the movement,
5 exercises to back health, or, just do these 3. Again, it comes back down to the studies. Like studies just say that if you do this, this, and this. But what are we saying when we're saying an exercise? We're saying a pattern that doesn't relate to anybody but the mean, right? It's the middle that have like average limb ratios and average flexibility and average strength or whatever. That means nothing when it comes to me telling you how to do a movement. So I agree with you that like I get very granular with what I think movement is, and I don't try to define it by exercises necessarily. Sure, sometimes deep joint angles, and we could go over like the technicalities of it, but that's why I've come to like thinking of movement in terms of orientation and energy system. So when we talk about like what I see, the biggest contributors are like, what's the behavior trait between a back squat and a deadlift? I go, that is unnecessary. It's like too much detail, not enough like oomph. There's nothing that comes from differentiating those two. Because for most people, their back squat looks like a deadlift, right? Because they can't move. So instead, we look at like the fueling substrate for what you're doing, and that is probably going to be the biggest agonist. Just like when you look at diet, although you're taking like, let's say, carnivore, and you're really understanding the macronutrient breakdown, right? When you say go for a run, I'm like, but what kind? And I'm getting granular with like the energy that's being distributed in the body, because that is what's going to signal the shift in behavior change. So the adaptation process is always energetic to start, because you have to fuel the effort, and that fuel, how it's derived, that will decide what the compensation is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's why, like when I break down all of my stuff, when you're like, what are you training today? It will start with the energetic system first. Oh, we're just doing strength endurance as a bodybuilding thing. We just want, and then we can get into the personality traits. I want to develop a sense of confidence in my musculature, but also in my brain, because that's literally what it does.
Well, that's what, we've talked about Strong Fit before. Julian Pinot's methodology, and his partner Richard has also gotten into Richard Aceves. And that, like, for me, it's just like when I felt it. I felt something. And that's when I get hooked, because it's, if you notice the change, I have the blessing and the curse of having hyper awareness of certain things. You call it sensitivity, whatever it is. Once I felt that massive change, and it's funny because you sometimes notice it much stronger when it's a bad change. But of course, it's when it feels good that you're like, okay, wait, now I'm bought in. I remember I did a workout, which was basically throwing a sandbag, like a 50 or 60 pound sandbag, swing it between your legs, throwing it over your head and backwards to try to clear a pull-up bar. So every one of those movements is a very explosive, what they would call like external torque movement, which is, according to them, like a sympathetic nervous system movement pattern. I was so angry every time that thing wouldn't hit. I was just mind-numbingly furious. And after I finished that workout, I was just wired and in a terrible mood. I was in a terrible mood. Now, doesn't mean that workout was bad. It just means I got a really, really strong sympathetic stimulus that felt like a failure because of the frustration that came with it. Now, you take the almost identical type of movement, which was my first strongman competition, and we had a keg toss, going down progressively heavier kegs to throw over a bar. And because of my placement in the earlier exercise, like the earlier movements, I was placed at like the second to last. So I was in second place. No one had cleared the final keg. I did every keg on the first try. The second one, I hit the bar the first time. On the second time, I cleared it. To this day, that was the single greatest instantaneous emotion. I was on top of the world like there was no other anything else that's ever happened. And it's because of the perfect combination of the actual circumstances, what was on the line, the movement that stimulated that in me. And so for me, it's like I know almost too much of all these little things, how they create that. I've tasted that. Now, that wasn't the final event of the competition. I went on to win the competition, but winning the event didn't feel as good. Winning the competition didn't feel as good as that one moment. I jump in the air, I fist pump, I just like, it was all out of body. It was just purely raw and real. Finding all these little things, like the exact same thing. I felt terrible. I felt amazing. The amazing thing, the thing is, I only realized that way after the fact, that that's what was happening. And then I was just like, I feel on top of the world. Getting into a movement practice that stimulates the nervous system in a way that gives you this feedback, that gives you the tools to change and alter yourself, your reality, whatever it is you want to call it. For me, there's no different. This movement and that supplement, they're the same thing in my mind in the sense that I'm able to alter, because why does anyone do anything, right? Like the most popular books that sell in the entire world are self-help books, right? Everyone wants to be better. People want to change themselves. How to be more like this. I'm too much like this. How to be more like this. You wrote a sleep book. How do I get better sleep? Because if I sleep better, I will all this and this and this. Finding those actual tools that now in this tool belt, I'm just accumulating and accumulating all these different tools that like, and this is my favorite thing is that, you know, when people talk about the root cause, I don't think of it as there being a certain direction. I think it's like bi-directional. If, you know, like the whole thing, like the Superman pose.
Yeah. What about it?
If you just do that, your confidence goes up.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
Alternatively, if you are feeling really good and confident, all of a sudden your chest pops up.
Yeah. Right? Or if you sink down and you change your posture down, you'll like revert.
So you can go either direction.
Totally.
That is such a wonderful gift that you're not stuck in any one way of these things. You can attack from your diet. You can change your posture. You can listen to music. If you just find these tools, and the ideally you wouldn't actually be like overly consciously aware. You would be like an animal following instinct, which is how we're supposed to perceive food. If you could just eat a food and be like, that made me feel good, you don't have to be like, what diet should I eat? Just like, what's gonna make, like, what are you craving right
This
now?
is a great, I'm so glad you brought this up because this is, you know, some people have bastardized this because we talk about intuitive eating, right? And you're like, intuitive eating is understanding how foods make you feel and perform, right? And being very sensitive to how that goes. By the way, I want to make a remark on your sensitivity later because it's hilarious.
Okay.
But when people go like, yeah, but I just feel like eating a fucking Baconator. And you go, yeah, but you also conditioned yourself inside of a shitty world. That is what you would intuitively aim for because you need like dopamine from food, not like sustenance. Right. So like when we say intuitive eating, we first have to adjust the intuition to being accurate to what we have a metric for as what feels good. What marks what feels good? Because a lot of these people, they're just like, no, you stick to, and there is a regiment that gets you to kind of remove your bad intuition and replace it. And this is what, we talked about this yesterday, and I kind of like wanted to bring us into this because this subject that you brought up about like mixing models, right, is a great subject, because a lot of people don't understand that there is not one big giant universal model. Not in physics, not in any science is there one unified principle that everything is true. But there are models that are like the old saying, all models are useful. All models are wrong, some are useful, right? That helped me probably almost more than any like slogan when trying to look at nutrition and look at exercise in how it affects me. Because once you understand where the model is coming from and you understand the methodologies that are contained to that, I can silo it and I can understand that my model of why carnivore might help me reduce, inflammation or lose weight or X or Z or Y is based off of principles and methodologies that are found inside of that model. But the model for why veganism might be good for somebody or raw, primal might be good for somebody, this is a different model. They don't mix and match it interchangeably. Like one good methodology to enact the effect of a model doesn't transfer over to the other. And that is what most people, I think, get wrong about diet, exercise, sleep, stuff like that.
I think the perfect like analogy to use to kind of help someone understand that would be like, ask someone their favorite dish, right? Let's say their favorite dish is like steak and mashed potatoes, or they love pizza, or whatever it is.
Rogan Josh or curry or something.
Whatever.
Tikka masala.
Okay. Now, let's take that dish, your favorite dish in the whole world. I'm going to stick it in a blender. Okay? I'm going to blend it for 30 seconds. And now I'm going to pour it into a glass. I'm going to have you drink it. Is that your favorite dish right now?
No.
Right. Yeah. Right.
It just made me a geriatric.
So like everything exists in this, it's sort of contained in that structure, in its matrix, right? And once you cross that and just throw it all into each other, now you've totally lost what made that, oh my God, that perfect crisp that you got on that. Let's go. It's just mush now.
Yeah.
Right.
But by science, it would be described as the same things because they homogenized the ingredients. They said that, tikka masala is tomatoes and onions and curry paste and blah, 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 chicken or whatever. And so they say, if you eat those things, you're eating tikka masala. But anybody that blended those things together and didn't go through the process of it doesn't understand what the experience of tikka masala is. So that's such a great
listen
analogy.
to this. So like the other day, a few weeks ago on Twitter, I posted how I've been eating a lot of French fries lately. And I've been feeling very, very good.
Yeah.
Now, ideally they're like cooked in beef tallow or whatever, but I travel, go to a diner or go to kind of a little bit nicer restaurant, but those French fries are usually cooked in whatever seed oil kind of stuff. But I've said for some reason, when I eat these French fries, they digest phenomenally. But when I tend to eat potatoes,
they don't.
With fat and salt, so like basically the same general ingredients.
Sure, yeah.
Not really, it's not working the same way.
Yeah.
And the average, even what's funny is the average person who's trying to like almost because it like kind of went a little bit viral, got a bunch of views. And the person who's kind of trying to like jab at me is like, you just like eating French fries. And I'm like, yeah, man, that's my whole fucking point. That's the whole point, right? Is that I really like a French fry. It's got that crisp and it's got that. And maybe there's something about the way that potatoes
the enjoyment.
Well, yes, and maybe there's something about the way that potatoes are treated when they're made into French fries. Like they're parboiled first and then cooked multiple times. You get resistant starch, whatever it is. Maybe that's true, but it's like it's not potatoes. It's something specifically about how French fries are made that like a baked potato with butter and salt, or like it does not do it the same way.
Okay, so very similar. I mean, we've talked about this in a bunch of different, I think we've talked about this actually. Okay, if I ate the identical, well, we'll go like different ingredients, same macros first. Obviously different effects, right? People can understand that one because it makes sense. Even if it's like the same carb, macro, calorie, whatever of a cookie versus like ice cream, identical. And I've played with this enough times where I'm like, I will get fat off of the cookie, the baked good, right? So in your context, you're saying identical ingredient prepared differently. and you're saying that it's different. What I was picking up on that, and maybe we weren't going there. You were saying something about the process, something like materialistic happened that changes completely the order of effect about how you feel about it. I would say, isn't there something to be said about whether you enjoy something and the release of something where you're like, man, this is satisfying. Your body's almost rewarding you with a feeling of good that might enact things that break it down better. So your stomach is alleviating some kind of stress.
Yeah. I mean, without like, sometimes I'd like to avoid saying different things that I'm not taking any like weird illegal drugs, but like just different supplements, because I don't necessarily want people to like go jump on and take them. Yeah. But like I'm taking a variety of different things right now. Like one of them lowers serotonin and lowers cortisol, and that's the thing that's been helping me sleep the most, but it also lowers dopamine. Yeah. So I sleep much better, but I'm just like kind of lethargic in general, right? Yeah. Now, I also have something that lowers serotonin but increases dopamine. And I also have something that just increases dopamine. Yeah. Right? So I have all these different things that I play with in different combinations. What's interesting is the one that makes you drowsy, they say tends to increase weight because people tend to eat more when they take it. But what's interesting is that I think part of the reason why people tend to eat more is that I think it improves digestion. The one that increases dopamine but lowers serotonin has apparently a reputation for leaning people out in the midsection.
Oh, interesting.
Right? And then you're going, wait a second. If I eat something that increases dopamine and lowers serotonin, could that also have the same effect? Right? So I'm basically accomplishing with a food, potentially what I could be accomplishing with supplements. And if I'm increasing certain neurotransmitters or hormones and decreasing others, can I basically accomplish the same thing? Now, I mean, I don't like really know what the exact answer is, but then that sort of starts this curiosity that you're going, okay, if I control my diet for macros or whatever kind of ingredients you want to, and now let's go, what is the best fucking meal I can make out of this? What is the thing that I personally am just going to love more than anything? Is that going to give me health benefits? I would think so.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, because the psychology that comes with it, I think, is discounted. That's why, obviously, like, and I know this has been addressed before, but I don't think it's like important. If the placebo effect is thought of as something to avoid, but
no, I want the placebo.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, why would I take a drug when I can trick myself into just producing the effect?
Okay, if we're talking about the kind of flaw in the methodology of studies in this average, you could take that a step further and say the mere concept of the placebo effect almost negates, I'm not saying we shouldn't do studies, but it kind of negates the whole thing on its face.
Right.
Should we not be aiming to maximize the placebo effect in everything that we do?
Well, because what you're saying by placebo is a proxy word that means internal effect, right?
Yeah.
Right. That's essentially derived from inside of yourself to create the circumstances that you want, which essentially what we're talking about is all this hocus pocus fucking manifestation bullshit that everybody's going out. That is placebo.
What you could even say is that our entire scientific method and system is predicated on the individual having such power that they can replicate the effects of drugs from completely within their own body.
Yeah.
Like, that's all you need right there. Like, mindset, whatever it is, it's, I saw something where it's one of these Olympians or something, like basically from the moment they got like onto the Olympic grounds or whatever, or from the moment they walked out, they just keep repeating, I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best. And then like she won or whatever.
Yeah.
Now there's someone that does that doesn't win, I'm sure. But like all of these little things, and like when you're sad and you put on that sad music, you're like, I want to be really fucking sad right now.
Yeah.
I want to cry it out and I want to get that like cathartic expression.
Yeah.
And like maybe that's fine because when you need to throw up, but you don't.
Yeah.
And you feel terrible, and then you throw up and you feel amazing.
Perfect, yeah.
So you can lean into it. Your body is doing this sort of expelling detox, however you want to, it's getting something out.
Purging, yeah.
And then you can flip it back up. And like, I remember, it's just a random story. This farm that I was working on, it was just a nightmare. Like it was just a nightmare of a situation. The boss was terrible. Everything was mismanaged and so unorganized, and it was crazy. And we were grazing our sheep on this property, and I did not have the appropriate equipment to do it. The fence was not charged properly. You know, the sheep had been getting out so many times. I get a call at like 9:30 p.m. and he's like, the sheep are out, right? And I'm like, great. So I'm driving and I'm just like, I fucking hate this job. I fucking hate this job. I just fucking hate this job. I do not like working for this guy. And then on the middle of the drive, I'm like, you know what? Put on ZZ Top. And I'm just like, that scene in The Big Lebowski where he's got CCR on and he's just like fucking hitting the thing. And I'm just like, fuck it. Let's go. Yeah. Let's go. And I got myself all psyched up, rang all the sheep in. And I was like, let's do that again. I did that the whole way home, felt much, much better. And then I quit that job like a week later. But I was just so pissed off. Yeah. And then I was like, you know, I could have listened to some heavy metal and just gotten angrier. And maybe that would have been cathartic too.
Yeah, reinforcing.
But I got this like high energy from ZZ Top, but like positive energy. And I'm just like, fuck yeah, I'm a sharp dressed man.
Yeah, I think, I mean, that's really hard to do, especially for like, you know, a self-proclaimed cynic. The hardest thing to do is actually admit that you can change your circumstances, because it ruins
to make them better.
I know, but it ruins the dispel that is over you, which is like, I'm a victim of circumstance and the world sucks. And it's, you know, we are all byproducts of entropy and we're all coming to nothing. And in reality you go, but even if that is true, before ultimate doom happens, or, you know, the pedophiles take over the world or whatever, officially run for office as a new political party, you have an opportunity to have what you want between those, whatever your belief is. But what I find really interesting is if you can't do it unless you change the belief. Like you can't really meet people who think that the world is coming to doom that can invest in it. And that's the secret to almost everything. Like the economy, you know, that Pam Bondi is going off about, you know, the Dow. Have you seen I don't know, I saw a music remix of it. It was genius. But you're like, the Dow is a perception, right? But the perception is based off of what the median believe to be true. And that's the only thing that ranks whether it is up or down, is what the average person believes that is up or down. If the average person believes it's down, then the entire economy fails. Right. Everything goes away. Nobody invests anything, right? All you have to do is see it ticking up to start believe that it's going to improve. But that's just a graphic on a line on a TV being projected from some astronomically far place that has nothing to do with what you're doing.
That's a bull market. Right?
Right.
Everyone's like,
exactly.
It's this ride this train.
And what is it? It's just a predilection towards success. So when I see more and more people falling into cynicism, I'm like, man, like a riot, or, you know, our environment, because now the environment is everywhere. That's the sad part about social media, is the world's worst environments that are being captured and displayed are coming into our phone and in our hand, and that is affecting us a certain way. So cynicism is going up, and a lack of belief in improved circumstances is going down. Therefore, circumstances actually don't become better because people don't believe they can come better.
Well, so, and this is, again, if you understand that the average person is average, they're cattle, whatever it is, right? If you are even able to be aware of any of this stuff, it puts you so far above everyone else that with that comes the Spider-Man line, great power and great responsibility. You yourself can change all the people around you. You know, one of the things my mom has always told me is it's never a bad thing to be the best dressed person wherever you are. And you've met my mom. Yeah. She's always the best dressed person wherever she goes. And people are often concerned, they don't want to stand out.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, what's the thing? Because I don't want to overdo it. You go, well, maybe.
Fuck it, tuxedo.
Yeah. Well, are you wearing a tuxedo to a job interview? Yeah. You know, but you know what I mean? Like, and so for me, it's, you can be the most fun person everywhere that you go. You can be the happiest person everywhere that you go. You can start the dance party. Right? Everyone is always waiting the wedding, at the whatever the thing is. Like I went to some little event a few weeks ago in New York, and people were just like standing around. And I was talking to this girl, and it was just like, hey, let's go dance. Because why not? Because why not? And then a bunch of other people started dancing. There's like a famous YouTube video, some concert, some outdoor show, and everyone's like sitting on the grass hill doing their thing. And the funniest thing about this is actually the whole thesis is it's not the person who starts it. It's the second person.
Oh.
Right? If you are the crazy person, if you're dancing by yourself and no one else has ever dances with you, you're the crazy person. You might as well be the crackhead under the freeway yelling about God knows what.
Yeah.
But you watch the video, this guy goes over and he fucking starts shaking around and dancing. And some other dude's like, yeah, let's go do that. And before you know it, everyone starts running. But even if the second guy is the one who makes the whole thing, nothing happens about the first guy.
Right, yeah.
You have to be the first guy or be the second guy. But you can't control the second guy. You can control the first guy.
Interesting. I think that's, I mean, there's so many things that relate to this like herd mentality and everything. I wanted to pick your brain on you went through kind of Carnivore, you went through Primal. Tell me about Ray Peat.
So this is what's honestly like, I find the Ray Peat thing like in many ways, it's just the funniest thing because when you want to do a new diet, you read the book.
Yeah.
You read the book, you listen to the YouTube video, you listen to the podcast. There's like here's the rules.
Yeah.
There's no fucking rules.
And that's okay. This is exactly what I wanted to get to because I, again, being maybe the sheep that I am, like, where's the book? Show me the outline. Give me the thesis so I can try to digest it. I have looked and I've read many books on Ray Peat, and I can tell you, I have some ideas that what he's talking about, and I think they're great. I have no idea how to put that into practice.
So, not to be used as like an insult, but like for normies, just like for the average person who's like, how do I get healthier? Yeah. I always tell them to read this book called How to Heal Your Metabolism. It's by this woman named Kate Deere.
I got it. Yeah. I think you sent it to me.
I've probably got like, I mean, she's happy. I'm happy for her to keep all the money, but I just deserve some commission. I probably sold like hundreds of those books. And it's just because she was a person who's like, let me put this together to explain what all these ideas are. Like
effectively known as peating.
Yeah. The one line, like the kind of the singular line, which like doesn't help you at all as for the diet, but like Ray Peat's like the one line is energy and structure are interdependent at every level. So his whole thing is based on increasing the metabolic energy, right? Just like you'd want to increase the energy of anything, it increases the complexity of the structure.
And does he have, I know he works, his research is mostly in thyroid, but does he have like, is he trying to upregulate mitochondria? What is his energy source that he's saying?
Well, so for me, like the simplest way is that it kind of creates this dichotomy of, what you might just call like the healthy metabolism or the thyroid metabolism versus the stress metabolism, which basically what you're doing is you're separating everything into two glands. You have the thyroid gland and the adrenal gland. Yeah. Now, this is like a gross oversimplification.
Totally,
right?
I get you, yeah.
So your adrenal gland is where you're going to be getting,
cortisol,
epinephrine, norepinephrine, cortisol, all these like cascading stress hormones. And according to him, serotonin is a stress hormone, estrogen is a stress hormone, glucagon is a stress hormone. And so there's basically like, you need to get from point A to point B. And it requires energy to get there. Now, you can go either, and this is perfect because this is the whole model idea. A lot of the fitness industry is actually like driven through the adrenal
for
system.
sure, 100%.
It is like the keto process, the calorie restriction process. I mean, you still need to create a calorie deficit to lose weight, but it's like driving it by like fasting and all these kinds of things. The idea is that there's basically just like your body has a preferred energy pathway. Now, of course, like, again, oversimplification, we burn both glucose and fats for fuel always, right?
But he's basically saying that the preference is on your prioritization of this substructure that's either adrenal based or thyroid based.
Yeah, that's again oversimplification.
Yeah, for sure.
And so many of our maladies as people is because we're just in this stress-based system that starts to just break everything down over time.
Right.
And the simplest way to sort of explain it would be a bear's chasing you, right? You're just like in the middle of the woods and a bear's chasing you. You're like, hold on 1 second. Let me get my Gatorade. Let me get some glucose into my system.
Right.
And now I'm going to run, right? No, it's like energy now.
Right.
Energy now, which means whatever glucose in your system is being used right away, and then you're going straight into gluconeogenesis.
Right.
Right. So now we're deriving glucose energy from the stress-based system.
Right.
We're using fat, we're using protein, whatever it is,
Breaking down muscle tissue.
because surviving the bear is more important than
prioritizing a pathway.
yeah, like, oh, I'm taking off like minutes off my, well, you know, I'm aging faster right now. It's like, dude, you're about to die.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
If it
Don't worry about cancer if the plane's going down.
Yeah, so it's about, you know, like the thing is, we're not being chased by a bear. We're just living our lives in this modern world, and we have all this kind of stress.
Outrunning.
And you're being poisoned, you know, your girl's cheating on you, like your boss fucking sucks, whatever it is you're under all this stress. And so when you told me, dude, you're fat, I was like, I don't know, like 8 months out of almost dying, right? I dove way deeper into this, but I got West Nile virus, which opened up the meningitis.
You explained this.
I got like hundreds of mosquito bites, right?
So I only heard there was like a possible bacterial or viral form of meningitis that landed you in the hospital, but you went back later and figured out you got attacked by a bunch of mosquitoes.
Yeah, I mean, I did, because I was like, how the hell did this happen?
Yeah.
And I mean, I just did a bunch of research. I looked at what my test results
You were
said.
like prime in the primal terrain theory thing where you didn't really believe that a virus was a thing at the time.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, and the thing is like, even within someone like Ray Peat, for instance, there's this sort of, it's kind of called like exosome theory, that like viruses are like this matter that's being expelled out from cells.
Right, yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean, like, if you can think of being around a person who's giving you a bad vibe can make you sad or whatever, like, why couldn't someone who's sick affect you in a negative way? But if your immune system was strong enough, your terrain was strong enough, it's like, I'm not here to argue over this. You know what I mean? I'm not concerned with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really did not, because the whole thing with like COVID, it, like, for me, I mean, again, rabbit holes, what else is not what we thought it was. You know, if you are too open-minded, your brain falls out kind of thing. But for me, I'm willing to go to that level because whatever. But anyway, so yeah, the doctor did say after I went in, like, if you had bacterial meningitis, you would be dead
for sure
right now. So if it's viral, then West Nile virus it's a very well-known mechanism that it basically opens the door,
an activator or something
to get meningitis.
Yeah.
So, you know, a long story short, I was on a swamp and I got hundreds of mosquito bites. And like a week later, I got terrible flu symptoms and, you know, basically ended up in the hospital or at the doctor. And, you know, I was like bedridden for 2 months and it was terrible. And so for me, I was coming out of that, like, I'm just trying to survive.
Right.
I'm trying to lower my I mean, like, I'm not like really worried about my physique right now. My girlfriend's pregnant and I'm working a job on a farm and I'm like crazy stressed right now. And I just like suffering all my dad's like, you know, has dementia and I just lost a massive source of income. Like, I mean, my life was just going through crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to survive. So for me, that meant like eating tons of sugar. Yeah. Because sugar lowers stress. You know, it's so funny. One of the first things I even learned when I got into paleo was that insulin opposes cortisol. Yeah. Right. And so, but it's funny because like a lot of times people think like, oh, well, you want your insulin low to burn fat, but by burning fat, you're just using cortisol to break down fat to create glucose in this like weird roundabout way. So I was eating a very, very clean diet, but I was eating lots of sugar, lots of calories, lots of fruit, lots of juice, lots of raw milk, lots of meat, a lot of potatoes. Just kind of ate.
Yeah.
I mean, after working on a farm for like 12 hours all day, I was just like really fucking hungry.
Yeah.
And I got fat. And I mean, what's crazy, and this is like the thing that I find calories so like missing the point once you especially look, I was like bedridden for 2 months with this illness. So I was definitely not eating enough. Think about what my metabolism was down regulating.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I am working on a farm. I got to be clearing 40,000 steps a day.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was probably around, I don't know, 200 pounds, and I got up to like 230, 235. So I'm like burning a ton. Do you really think that I'm like eating like 4,000 or 5,000 calories? Like I just don't feel like I was eating enough to justify this like massive weight gain. But my metabolism been so shut down from having, throwing up and just shitting my brains out and being sick and bedridden and not being able to eat, that all of a sudden then my body was under mass amounts of stress. Now,
well, the fat is the tissue of inflammation, right?
Yeah.
So you're like the storage reciprocals kind of like open up to devour, not necessarily excess calories, although that's how we like imagine it, but really to absorb inflammation.
Yeah, I mean, it's even like kind of this sort of deposit for like toxins and stuff too. It's like, it's not so much the fat that makes you unhealthy, it's the unhealthy that kind of makes you fat.
Yeah.
Sort of wants to create this tissue. So yeah, I could have, done everything in my power to keep my physique in check, but it's like, would I have been as productive and functional? Would I have been as good on the farm? Would I have been able to be there for my girlfriend and my baby and all these kinds of things? So, I mean, it was really just like a matter of like priorities there.
That might be one of the best ways I've ever heard it put. And I don't know if that was yours, but that's like a little bit dumbfounding, because I think the incorrect association is detrimental. And by describing it isn't the fat that makes you unhealthy, it's the unhealthy that makes you fat, is a really great way to understand what our bodies are doing when we're in like forms of disarray, right? Like the system is being annihilated through exterior forms of stress, and then additional stress by, maybe poor food choices, whatever, bad sleep, lack of exercise, all of these things we have nothing to basically combat, because we're too much in a deficit. So the disease portion of us is essentially creating this thing that we relate to the opposite direction.
Well, I mean, I do think that it's like the posture thing where it's bidirectional.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can make yourself unhealthy by just getting fat.
Sure.
But so I've kind of like known on Twitter for just randomly diagnosing people with Cushing syndrome. Like either like as like a dunk on them or just like an observational thing.
Yeah.
So for people don't know, what Cushing syndrome is the name for hypercortisol anemia, right?
Yeah.
So like excess cortisol.
Yeah.
If I take you, a very fit person, and I just inject you with cortisol, I don't know if I have just one time, but I just start doing it repeatedly, you will start to get fat. And not just you will start to get fat, you will start to get fat even if your weight does not change. Because now what I am doing is I'm signaling your body to break down healthy tissue.
Yeah.
I'm making you catabolic.
Invert my, your break,
And I will be recomping you. I will be altering your body composition in a negative way.
Right.
And so that's like, I mean, again, calories do matter, but there's so many deeper layers to this thing. Obviously. Where I said like, hey, my weight hasn't been changing, but I've been traveling on the road, eating steak and French fries and drinking a lot and not sleeping a lot, but I've lost 2 notches on my belt.
Yeah.
And it was only once I started taking these neurotransmitter supplements that are lowering my cortisol and lowering my serotonin. But like my weight wasn't changing, but I lost weight around my waist because remember Charles Poliquin?
Yeah.
So he had this thing called biosignature, which funny enough, no matter how popular Poliquin is, that didn't really seem to like seep into the main sort of the zeitgeist as much. His theory was that the fat accumulation on different parts of the body signaled specific hormone levels. Like I forget all of the areas, but like if you're holding more like fat on your chest,
arms, your
or like,
chest,
you know, like the
bingo wings.
Bingo wings.
I've read that.
Yeah. So the things, excuse me, the things that I remember the most, because these are the things that I suffer with. I have been super, super lean everywhere, and I always hold fat around the midsection. Now it's very, very common, but you're like, well, why? Why isn't like the palm of my hand getting fat, right? Yeah. There's a reason why certain areas get fat and others don't. So he identified the belly as cortisol and the love handles as insulin resistance. So if I'm lowering my cortisol by eating French fries, which make me feel really good, and taking a supplement which lower cortisol, my weight all of a sudden just started shrinking. Now my weight didn't change, which means it's possible that fat went away here and went somewhere else.
Sure, yeah.
But you know the whole thing about like when a woman is a little overweight and she goes, yeah, but she carries it well.
Yeah.
What does that mean? She's
distributing healthy.
And it's in the places you want it and not the places you don't.
Right.
No one wants a girl who has no tits, a massive belly, and no ass, right?
Yeah.
But what guys would be like, yeah, she's a little thick, but she's got great tits, she's got great ass, and she's got a tight little waist. And they could be the exact same height, and they can have the exact same body fat percentage. What you're talking about is just hormones.
Right.
Because hormones affect the distribution.
Right.
And so that throws all of that like just adds all, like I love Cushing's as an example because it is really like it creates ugliness just by being stressed with cortisol.
Yeah.
Now you can be like when I'll post
this is where you go through and you'll like examine somebody's eye and like the ratio of their what is it? Because I've seen you do yeah. Because I've seen you do it to somebody where you like zoom in on their face and you're like look at the disposition or character traits.
Oh, so they call that like physiognomy. Yeah. So like how big your nose is, how asymmetrical your face is, different lips and all these kind of little things like that. This all factors into like making someone what they are. Yeah. Which is why. I was saying like I'm just hypersensitive. Like I notice things both about myself and other people because I don't know how not to be. But what I'm able to do is I'm able to discern what someone is. Like I'm really curious when I meet people. I'm very judgmental. People say that's some like negative thing, but it's why would I not try to take everything I know about you to figure out who it is that you are? Can I trust you? Yeah.
Well, you just call it discernment.
Yeah, sure. Do I want to be around you? Hey, that person looks kind of suspicious. Yeah. A lot of times people aren't, it's one thing to like just not be able to do it. And sometimes people aren't comfortable with like passing a judgment on somebody.
Sure.
But, it's like, I always tell people about, when people are like, why did you move to Salt Lake City? It's like, I kind of came here randomly and I met these guys for like 5 minutes and I was like, I want to be here, right? And it's funny because you're talking about this guru who like put someone through a movement, but it's like I don't need. I never came here. Why I feel like a lot of the other people did.
Sure,
I just kind of liked hanging out with you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I like famously did not do certain workouts when I was on Primal. I just slept on the couch in the gym because I had no energy. But no, I mean, there's something like I've heard you talk about this before, and I think we were like in the office, maybe like the last time I was here or some time ago, and you're like, why do I cut my hair in this way? Because I'm trying to signal something. Mm-hmm. I feel this way, and I want to project it to the world. Yeah. And like, when people like tell me like, man, you change this and that, and you become this, that, and I go, I'm just going with my mood. So am I a different person when I do that?
To somebody else you are, because people really love defined silos. Josh is, Tarzan.
But do you not think that when you decide to make a certain alteration that you are not then going through your own metamorphosis?
No, I 100% do. Yeah, I 100% do. I mean, without getting like too far in the weeds on that subject, I mean, that's a transformation and this internal drive to like constantly, cause change in ourselves to realize potential or something that is kind of like, well, we call it the point or the purpose of life. It's definitely not to like sit and be the same thing that you are in the moment. There's nothing new that comes from that. But people are very weird about it, right? Because once you find something that works, you're not supposed to go away from that. So you're supposed to, I don't know, somehow navigate changing, but only in how the people that are around you see it as the same, or it coincides with their changes that are positive. That's supposed to describe like healthy change.
Right. For them, they are considering it healthy if it's within the parameters that they deem acceptable in the direction that they...
Exactly. But most people don't change. So they view any change outside of themselves as unhealthy. So which is like, oh, they've just been like, imagine, let me describe the same scenario in two totally different aspects. Somebody, looks at their bank account and it's like in the negative, right? And they're like distraught and they realize like they can't live like this because it caused so much stress and they're unhealthy. They're worried about everything. And they're like, I'm going to do something about it. So they look at they do an audit of their time and they're like, okay, I need to make more money, so I just have to work more. So they like go to their boss and like, listen, put me in whatever hours I can work. I'll work them. I'll be there for whatever. And then they also go, I'm a smart person, not just an idiot that's going to work a deadbeat job. So I'm going to invest what other time that I have in learning new skills to act as a lever to increase my life capacity so I can make more money during the hours that I do work. So you like, let's say that they're like at the bottom of the rung and they're like fast food, right? So they're making 15 or 16 bucks an hour. And they go, okay, well, if I go to school on the weekends and learn to be a phlebotomist, I can make like 25 bucks an hour. Do they just double their income? And then they're doing this game back and forth, back and forth. Well, that's, if you looked at that person and that person kept that drive and kept that like very, I would say simple, but compounding effect of analyzing how they can use their time and how they can amplify their time over and over. Just like developing skills, applying those skills, developing skills, applying those skills. That person would essentially become a fucking millionaire no matter how fucking stupid they are, right? It's inevitable. They would inevitably make massive amounts of money if that was their goal, because, this one thing that they wanted to change about themselves, I never want to feel poor again. So they go back and no matter what, you give that person 10 years, 20 years, doesn't matter. They might own like a fucking garbage pickup delivery or whatever, but with enough determination and that compounding thing, they would make their life different and they would change into what they viewed that they wanted. They wanted to have security and like a life that they could like not worry about, right? Take it from the perspective of the person that like loves that person because, they love going to the bar and hanging out and they're like, that's my bro. He just dude, he's so cool. He'll like leave work and we'll just go get high and fucking go to the bar and we'll just hang out all day. And then, he doesn't realize that person had like an instigating circumstance and all he sees is that person is going away and that like, he's not the same person and man, he's just changed. All he cares about is money. And you're like, all he cares about, he just works nonstop. He has new friends now, friends that are like into phlebotomy or like whatever the job or skill that he gets, because that person is networking and trying to change the circumstances. But when you look at both aspects, you're like, neither, like, it's not bad or good, any of them. It's just from the perspective of the person that like wants something for themselves is whether it's good or bad.
Well, it's funny because you brought this up earlier. There's only 3 people in the world who told me that I was fat. You and my parents.
Oh, your parents did?
Yeah. That being said, when I was in amazing shape, I had a lot more people like, aren't you take this a little too far? Or like, do you ever just like relax a little bit?
Shrimps in a bucket.
Yeah.
Or crabs.
Yeah. I was like, shrimps in a bucket.
I mixed that up with, I think.
Yeah. Is that dinner?
I was thinking, it's like she's got a face like a bucket of smashed crabs is the other one.
Yeah.
It's like she's got a fucking face. It's like an English expression, or like a face like a welder's bench.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
It's pretty bad. But yeah, the crabs in the bucket syndrome. I think, dude, it's the hardest thing once you recognize it.
But it was never someone who was themselves in good shape whoever said that I was taking it too far.
Right. Now, take that in every other aspect of life, right? And this confounds me all of the time. In fact, I have one friend, that I can talk to about this who gets it in the level that I do. at least experiential wise, when you've like shifted so many times away from people, like you're almost a loner. Like, to be fair, I don't really have like, I have friends, right? But we don't hang out. I'm too fucking busy. Like, I don't have time.
I see you like once a year.
I know, but like, exactly. And I would say we're friends.
Yeah.
Right. But like, even the friends that live here, the people who remain my friends, they just wish me luck.
Yeah.
They're like, keep doing it. Right. And then when we have time or I run into them, it's great. Not that we don't have to say anything. It's not like you missed my birthday. It's not like, oh, you never told me.
Usually if I want to see you, I just text Aaron.
Well, and that's, maybe it's unfair, but I have an idea about what I want for myself,
Sure.
and I haven't fucking gotten it yet. So I'm really unhappy and I'm really unpleasant to be around, because the whole desire makes you unhappy until you get what you want out of life. But other people, and I guarantee this because I ran into one of my old friends at the Jazz game the other day, and he saw me and I was like, hey, and I was like, gave him a hug. And then I was like, oh yeah, you're really pissed that I like disappeared. He had this like resentment for me. And I haven't seen him for 15 years or something like that. And he's like, what are you up to? And I was like, same, like working, like trying to figure things out. And it was just like, it was really weird because he looked the same. Same hat, same outfit, same whatever. My hair is fucking retarded and weird and all over the place, and I wear totally different clothes. And I'm at a basketball game. Right. I fucking supposed to hate basketball, but now I love basketball. There's this like, without even saying it, this like admission or this like, I guess like acknowledgement of like, oh, you did change a lot. And also I didn't change at all. And I have this one friend that called me because I think he's gone through the same things. And I see him every once in a while. He's like one of my best friends. And I would like, no matter what, but I only see him like once or twice a year. And he doesn't live very far from here.
No.
And I only talk to him when it's very important. Right? Like, he was one of the first people I called when London died. He's one of the like first people I asked when like bad stuff happens to me. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I just trust him. Well, something bad happened to him a couple times, and he does the same. And he called me, he goes, how do you deal with like the loneliness? Because it's a very lonely prospect, changing yourself. And that was the first time that I was like, man, that's such a good way to put it. You're like, it really is a lonely venture, because the only people that will be around you are the people that change in the same direction. And I'm not saying I'm in a good direction. I'm like not claiming that I'm better than. I'm just saying that I'm shifting in a pattern that doesn't match most people's, because it does take quite a bit of honesty. Like, I constantly beat myself down. That's not fun to be around, where I'm like, I'm not working hard enough. I'm not doing enough. I need to do this. I should change this about my aspect. Even like lately, I've been like, God, I lost like 10 pounds of mass in the past 3 months. I got to fucking fix it. I have to constantly change and shift. That loneliness, I don't think people are equipped to deal with that. And therefore, most transformation, most change doesn't happen, and people get to the end of life and they're like, man, I wish I woulda.
Well, do you not think though that you're wired in a more particular way that lends itself towards that?
I don't know if it's what nurture, nature.
Yeah, but okay, so like let's use like human design, for instance, right? I forget the gate or whatever, but it's like I'm a really tribal person.
Same, yeah.
Okay. So like that we both pursue that, but we express it different ways.
Totally different, yeah.
But we still, at the end of the day, we want this knit group of people. And so, but there, again, like, okay, so then there's got to be all other, I'm not saying human design has like the answer to it, but we both are drawn to being around people, but we do it in our own way. And so it's like, there's, I'm still like a very big fan of genetics and think that's a really, really big part of it. You look at these twins that they've been adopted and they have the exact same
life. Or they're both like announcers for the UFC and boxing.
But like it's crazy how much is just like really rooted in there.
Yeah.
And it's like that's one of the things too, which like I can't give you your way. It's like, that's your way. This is my way. And you can help guide people. You can, you can coach them. You can kind of, like, I've always loved movies. And in the last so many years, I really like fell out of watching movies. Like I didn't go to a theater for like 6 years.
Yeah.
It was like COVID, and I was just like, there's no movie I really care to see. And at some point I was also like, I don't want to watch these stupid movies anymore. But I forgot just how much I really loved movies.
Yeah.
So I don't really watch a lot of new ones because I feel like they're not making good ones really. But I'm like more open to watching, like, oh, I'll check it out. But I've been just spending a lot of time watching older movies that I either enjoyed and revisiting them with, this version of myself looking at them. And also movies that like I hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
And so what I like to do is I like to go on YouTube and watch like clips of the director, actors talking about what they were doing or thinking about. And you realize there's all different schools of acting. There's like the Strasberg school of acting. Like I think he was the what do you call it? Like the Daniel Day-Lewis approach.
The
method acting. I think that was his.
Yeah.
And there's like all these different, like there's acting where it's like you are that character the entire time of the shoot.
Yeah. And
there's also you're only that character the second, and then you have to just like go in and out.
Yeah.
Right. And like that's the desire. So we're talking about, again, other models.
Yeah.
No. This is the right way to do it.
Yeah.
Well, for what is the goal, and also who are you? For myself, like I didn't really do much like acting. I did a little bit like extra work kind of a thing, but I had like my time as a TV host and podcasts, things like that. So I've been in front of the camera a lot. And I know for myself, how I work really well is I can never read a script. I just do terrible with scripts.
Yeah.
What I can do is I can either totally riff on the spot, or I can give myself a script and then I can riff it. I can kind of have, this is what I want to say. I want to make sure I hit these kind of certain elements, and then let me just try to make it live, because it's actually going to be live and real and genuine. This is going to be the first time these actual words have been put together in this way, in this moment. But I can't do the, like, I really, really struggle with like, this is the script exactly. If I were to become an actor and do that, it's like I would almost need to do like much more cuts or something. I would have to find a way to make that work.
Make it work, yeah.
But I was shooting something last summer, and I was told like, hey, can you cut like this like little promo for this thing? And I'm like, okay, like let me, what am I kind of trying to get across here? And in my mind, I'm like, okay, let me kind of cook this. And the producer just was not helping me at all. Just like he was doing a terrible job of giving me what I need to do. It's like, look, I've done this before. I'll come up with something. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm kind of hearing it. I'm kind of feeling it. Just give me a second. And then all of a sudden he starts talking. And I'm just like, you're fucking up my flow. So, and I'm like, if you don't shut up right now, you're going to ruin the whole thing. Right? I'm just like, just let me cook. Just let me, I got it. Right. And then I was able to just hit it. I think I did like 2 or 3 takes, and I kind of changed it up a little bit. But that's just like, I know my process.
Yeah.
And that's like people don't know their process well enough. They're just, you tell me, I do, give me the thing, and it's such a confusion between who they are, what they need from outside help. Like how are you best coached? Like what kind of
or how you best learn.
Yeah, and I just think so much of that is just very individual. Are you a visual learner? Like when I studied in school, I was not, I'm a smart person. I always tested very well. I just did not give a shit about school.
Sure,
I did not care to do my work. And in college, I just wouldn't go to class, right? But what I would do is I would get the notes. There's always, girls are like very organized, and they type up their notes in this thing on the computer. And all I would do is the night before the test, I would take the notes and I would just write them by hand.
Yeah, and then it's
and like just the process by writing by hand was like, this is absorbed into my being, at least for the day, at least for 24 hours.
I remember the fact that I need to display on the thing.
Yeah. Like that I can like transmute that energy.
And you figured out that very quickly because you had a positive reaction somewhere in, and you changed your behavior to be like, I don't have to waste time learning. You probably inherently know, I don't need to waste time remembering somebody else's shit. I can just like remember the facts to prove to them that I know their shit, but then I'm going to learn how I want to learn, which is through experience.
Yeah. Because like if I'm taking, the whole thing people do is like, look, it's college. Like you're supposed to be there because you want to learn. And it's like, look, I studied kinesiology in school, and I took my nutrition classes, and you can argue all day long about what the actual truth is, but I was told by school that saturated fat caused heart disease, and that instead you should eat you want to eat seed oils, right? Now, maybe that's the truth, right? But I don't believe that, and I know a lot of other people don't believe that. But I had to, on my test, I had to bubble in what I knew in my heart to be false to get the right thing. I'm like, this actually isn't school. This is a certification process. This is just credentialism.
Yeah.
So I'm on my own reading blogs and things about trying to learn the nutrition, but I know what I have to bullshit. So let me just learn.
Separating the two gates.
Yeah.
This is fascinating to me because this is where I'm very different from you. I have an inability to say somebody else's bullshit as the right answer. And I know it's just a me problem. I never got that skill.
So you would just purposely fail the test.
Fuck you. This is my answer. So for instance, when I was in college, I effectively dropped out of college because in my philosophy of religion studies, I made my final essay for the class was based off of me saying that Judaism did not start as a monotheistic religion. It became that and is later referenced as the first monotheistic religion, but that's not what originated as. And he failed me for it. And now, today, it is now a known fact that is actually true.
Yeah, it was like a pagan religion.
Totally.
Yeah.
But the evidence is in the Bible. And my claim was like, why would Moses come down and be upset that they were worshiping another god if they didn't believe in other gods?
Right.
That was my whole argument. And he failed me because it didn't align with what the historians were saying that it was. And I was like...
Also, Zoroastrianism is the first monotheistic.
Totally, yeah. I think the interesting thing about that is like, instead of learning to play the game, like you did, which I think is probably a better route, I rejected it wholly. I dropped out of school and I made a determined decision to like not listen to anybody. Well, like solidified my behavior.
Let me tell you this. I have learned to be more disagreeable, but it is not usually my natural instinct. It really depends on like the mood that I'm in, what I've noticed. But testosterone administration reduces lying. Right?
No shit.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that.
So like what they call like pro-social behavior.
But it doesn't reduce the amount of people that are injecting testosterone that are lying about it.
Well, that's true. Funny enough. But here's the thing. Then if you get the aromatization, then your estrogen goes, And
then you become a liar.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but like it's funny because of the fact that like having a higher level of testosterone leads you to be more willing to say things which are not like the consensus opinion. At the same time, I also like for myself, I've noticed is serotonin is very close. And again, all of these like stress hormones sort of raise each other. That's
for sure.
Like a big
they're
cascade.
They're banded.
Yeah.
Like I think people don't. They associate obviously estrogen and testosterone because it's a well-known pathway, but they don't really understand that when cortisol kicks, the signaling and reduction of melatonin is a signal for serotonin. And that serotonin in that chain of command will start regulating, even testosterone to a very large degree and deciding whether it goes into a alpha or beta pathway, and that will start to be an antagonist for all these other like
so serotonin actually increases verbosity. Actually, so
interesting.
I'm a big fan of Chris Masterjohn.
Yeah.
Same. And he got on Rogan recently, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Relatively recently.
And he went off on how he hates, fucking what's it called? Blue chews or whatever, or not blue chews. I can't think, methylene blue.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which I found fascinating. I was like,
but I highly recommend going on Chris Masterjohn's Twitter and searching serotonin. He has at least one amazing thread on serotonin.
He does really. I know he charges for them later, but when he drops things, like when they're his first articles, he makes them free for like a week. And I've never seen anything so in depth when he goes into a subject. I can't say that I read the serotonin one, but I would recommend it to quite literally anybody. Any subject that he touches, it will be like a masterclass on the subject.
No, he's got that like autist power,
Totally,
to the, you know, the nth degree.
Yeah, I'll have to look for the
but there,
serotonin.
it's. I don't even know if you put it in an article, but it's just a Twitter thread, and there's probably more than one.
Yeah.
But it's the one that he talks. So serotonin is disassociative. So you're basically in a state of stress and you're trying to remove yourself from reality, which is, what does someone do when they're lying? They start talking and talking and talking because they're trying to just sort of like take you away from this subject matter. So when I was talking about the gut stuff, I think that part of my maybe I don't know if I'm saying like just objectively, it's just like I can't, like, because I can be disagreeable sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes I want to, sometimes I don't want to. You're also like, who are you talking to?
Yeah.
Because if you're like, you have a job and you have a boss, you know, you can kind of make the decision. It's like, I could tell him to go fuck himself.
Self-preservation.
Yeah. When my digestive distress is high, serotonin goes up a bunch. And this is why, and you and I have talked about this so many times, increased rumination.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So now you're having all of these thoughts, and then that's going to promote a lot more words to come out. Versus if I'm totally at peace digestively, I'm much better at just like, I can say much fewer words and get straight to the point.
Okay, so I've talked about this architecture, and it came from you. And I like credit you with it because I think you're the first person. We might have been on mushrooms when you were talking about. It might have been a lot of mushrooms, and I can't remember exactly what you said, but it placed an image in my head because you had come to this realization about being a predator. You're like, no, I just identify that like I am a predator, and that entails a behavior that instead of sitting in a field, and you didn't say this, but this is what I built in my head for the, you know, I'm very creative, is that, you know, the ruminants, the grazers, they're in a field in a valley that's open for the taking, and they're slow. And the reason they're there is because they have to sit there so long on low quality food to turn it into something of quality. That's why they have two stomachs, right? Like that's why they turn it over. And to ruminate really means to turn shit. And the predator, because it allows that grazer to do all of the work and absorb all that nutrient density and condense it into the meat, all it does is goes and gets exactly what it wants in the moment. Its act of feeding is like a fucking 100th of what the grazer takes. Therefore, it can focus on other endeavors. And you said something to that effect, like the fact that you get your source like this means that you have energy to do the other things that are more creative or, you know, what are ambitious. And I always thought about that because when I meet people that eat low quality foods or that eat like, you know, filler foods or something like that, all I can think is that they're probably cycling their thoughts a lot because they're low quality thoughts, and their behavior with eating reflects in their behavior of thinking, and that allows them to not make decisions properly, to not like cut and make a decision. Well, that's fascinating.
Think about how many more opportunities for error there are the longer the process takes, right?
Yeah.
And this is the interesting thing too, and it's like, this is kind of what the kind of ideal or somewhat idealized diet in the Ray Peat sphere, but it is also this kind of convergence that a lot of other people have come to. Like if you take like a Paul Saladino, who, I mean, I think he does good work. Obviously, and he's talked about Ray Peat a lot, but it's like you can tell how much of the influence is much greater than what he even states.
Sure.
But it's like meat and fruit and dairy. If you just like, these are all, you know what's funny? Simple sugars versus complex carbs. We have been told that this complex thing is this good thing because, you know, it takes more energy to break down. There's more nutrients there.
Less insulin. Yeah.
But it's like, you eat the fruit and it just boom, right in your system.
Yeah.
Simple sugars for you to use. Now, of course, people go, okay, well then now you need to be using it. You need to be extremely active.
Sure. Yeah.
But the animals that we call carnivores, most of them eat some plant matter as well.
A little bit, yeah.
And usually that plant matter looks more like fruit.
Yeah.
Wolves eat fruit, bears eat fruit. You know, I mean, like big cats will like chew on grass as like a digestive aid, like a bitters kind of a thing, or like induce vomiting. But really when it comes down to like, where is that, like what really are we in like the trophic scale as humans? People are like, we're the apex predator. You know, like that, like the whole like caveman thing, and it all sounds really cool. Like we're just badass, we just eat meat. But not even like carnivorous animals really are like that.
No, because they say that like extreme carnivores or obligatory carnivores, like cats or polar bears, I think are like the most extreme carnivores. Their diet still is 85% meat.
Yeah. So it means there's a lot of room for not meat.
Yeah.
A lot of room for not meat. And when it comes to what is less likely, you know what's actually really funny? This random person DM'd me on Twitter. Person that I have like had a very small following, but they were clearly a real person, real account. And normally it's like, oh, this person that you follow also follows me. Totally nothing. I'm like, is this, because I mean, random people, DM, I get spam. This guy sent me like paragraphs. So I was like, hey, so I tweeted this thing out that I have a really, really high alcohol tolerance. Like I can drink, and I can just drink all night, and I'll get drunk, but like I can just drink a lot, and my liver seems to be able to handle it like no problem. But I seem to be like way more susceptible to like caffeine and coffee and stuff. And you're like, okay, obviously there's different mechanism, but like someone tell me what's going on with my liver, why this is. And he said, you have this thing which a lot of other people in the health world have, that is, oddly enough, it's very prominent in like high IQ individuals. And this is like my next path that I'm going. And it's not like, oh, I did Ray Peat, it's over. It's like, no, these things are all finding their way.
Grab what's good, right?
So what I'm basically, and I know I have like a gut bacteria issue, right? We've talked about this whole time. And I have other symptoms that would lead me to believe that. Like I get like the white on my tongue. I had issues in the past of a lot of like dandruff and flaking and stuff, which I've been able to get under control. But basically, if you have a certain, I think it's like candida, maybe something else. Basically, what's happening is your body is producing acetaldehyde, which is like the byproduct of alcohol, all the time.
And it's pushing your tolerance.
Well, basically, I am drunk always. But it's different. There's the other condition where people will blow on a breathalyzer test, where their body actually turns sugar into alcohol. It's a different situation than that. And like I read through his thing that kind of gave me an idea. I need to study a lot more, so I forget the specifics on what it's called. But I'm basically like, my body has a really high alcohol tolerance because it's dealing with alcohol all the time.
Interesting. Huh.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm going to have to at some point do some kind of like protocol, which is funny because one of the like recommended, like he sent me this whole website. It's called like Born Free Protocol. This guy is like crazy, not the guy who sent it to me, but this guy who came up with this really high IQ. If you listen to his YouTube interviews, you're like, dude, this is all going all over my head. It's just pure science. His name is like Josh Lysek or Lisa or something like that. I forget exactly. Lisk, something, but Born Free Protocol. Someone wants to look it up. One of the things he actually recommends is like effectively like a keto carnivore diet.
Oh, really?
To remove any like fermentable substrate.
Yeah, interesting.
But, you know, it's like you got to do that intervention. You kind of want to kill everything off with certain antimicrobials like oregano oil, stuff like that. And then you can but again, it's really
the gut protocol. There's a 360 gut protocol that basically binders and oregano oil, like natural antiparasitics and some bacterial balancing.
Yeah.
And then you can reintroduce some good bacteria and good flora. But I would say, just funny, is like you could just map it. Like you can map your entire gut and see exactly where it's out of whack.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's this guy that I did contact who like kind of does some like gut stuff, and he's like, get these blood tests or get these tests done, and then you can see exactly what it is.
Yeah, it's a functional diet. It's what Aaron does.
Yeah,
now
because like again, like for me, it's my gut is the thing that I'm like most.
Yeah. Well, then walk me through sugar diet. Where are you at with it now?
I think it's like another great intervention. Like again. Most people approach nutrition because they want to lose weight, right? I've already had my like ideal physique.
Yeah.
That's not interesting. I mean, do I want to look like that now? Yes.
Yeah.
But because I don't need to figure that out,
Yeah.
what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to solve all these other problems, and then ideally I would also be able to lose the weight. What sugar diet did was it showed me how well I run on carbohydrate, and it gave me the most incredible sleep. And again, if we go back to the whole insomnia cortisol thing, if insulin opposes cortisol, if I'm giving myself like 500-600 grams of carbs a day, especially from sugar, there's just like really nowhere for cortisol to come in there.
That was objectively, I was probably the most skeptical, only because the premise didn't quite make sense. But you know me, I'm game.
Sure.
Like I will try some shit. And I have to say, at first I thought you had to like do it. And then as soon as you were like, no, you can like use it, sporadically, because it's not like a keto where you have to stay in this state in order to get the benefit.
Yeah.
Like what shocked me, I mean, absolutely jaw dropped me, was that in 3 days I lost 10 pounds.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, fuck.
Did you eat any protein during those 3 days?
Yeah, I did.
Just that dinner?
Yeah. And I tried to do it like, I tried it a couple different ways. So I did like 3 days a week for like 4 weeks. And then I tried a couple interspurtant days, but that's what I hated the most. Like just doing like 1 day a week wrecked me. It made it almost impossible to get any kind of semblance of like system going for me.
Interesting. Why do you think that is?
I think it throws me really out of whack.
Was it because you just weren't satiated at all? And if you were used to not eating that way, all of a sudden, like the whole day just felt like you were...
Yeah, like when I got into a rhythm on the third day, I was like, oh, I eat big bowls of fruit and, smoothies. Once I could put smoothies in, it was really good. But it was almost like, Erin joked about this. She's like, I cheated. And I was like, what did you eat? She's like, a chicken breast. she was like legitimately like craving just like protein.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a really good sign. But I mean, she's like, dude, right? She's like in the 8% body fat. She's like jacked out of her fucking mind right now. So I think for her,
she was just too lean.
Way too lean, and like she dropped 2 pounds.
Yeah.
And she was like, I can't even function.
So were you eating like pure fruit-based foods all day long?
I tried honey. I couldn't palate it.
Yeah.
And then this is what's funny. I tried to do it like what my idea of like organic fruit and smoothies and stuff like that. I couldn't get enough in. The only thing that I could get in is the tahine like gummy bears. Because I needed, it was my palate was
fatigue,
fried.
yeah.
So tahine.
Did you ever add sugar to your smoothies? Just like
no, I
pure
couldn't
cane
do
sugar?
it, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just too sweet. And so like it just fried me.
And no starches?
No starches.
And what'd you have for dinner usually?
Dinner was like, I would make like a shrimp and vegetable.
Okay.
Like fish and vegetables.
So would you have like a low carb dinner?
Super lean.
Yeah.
And no starch.
Yeah.
And then mostly vegetables.
Interesting.
And I just didn't like, I mean, I came to the same thing. I was like, this is a really cool intervention.
Yeah.
You're like, I could really understand how you could use this. I don't know where yet. Like it will like you, I do a lot of things that I'm like, I don't know. And then later something comes into my field and I'm like, that's what it's for. I can try it for that.
Yeah.
So I loved trying the intervention. Do you know the thing I couldn't get over?
What?
My fucking teeth felt grimy all day. I had to brush my teeth like 9 times a day.
Yeah. So what you really have to do is you have to like, if you can't brush your teeth, like rinse your mouth out with water.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like,
it was bizarre. But like, what do you see as like the biggest benefit? Like besides the sleep was really good. The energy was
just like unbridled energy.
Yeah, okay. I said the same thing. I didn't need coffee.
Yeah, no, none. You don't need it at all.
Yeah.
And I could just sleep like a baby.
Sleep was interrupted for me.
You know why? Your dinner was too low carb. If you were eating a lean protein and vegetables.
Yeah.
So I always ate a very large carb dinner. One of the reasons why I because again, I was pursuing sense of well-being over weight loss. Sure. So I would often eat like a massive bowl of starch for dinner.
Like pasta or rice or
pasta or rice.
Okay.
The problem was that I went too low on protein and I definitely lost muscle.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I would like string together like multiple days of no protein.
I mean, dude, it's really hard to get, if we're averaging it out and we say that to maintain muscle mass, you need X amount of protein, to get that in one meal is fucking challenging.
I mean, I can get down like a pound and a half of protein for dinner, like no problem.
Yeah, I can. I'm not a like good eater.
Oh my God. My problem is I'm too good of an eater.
Fair.
Like the fact that I've been in phenomenal shape my whole life
It's crazy.
is just crazy.
I think that's fucking fascinating. All right. I think, man, we'll have to do it again because like, I think we're like 3-7 hours.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I could talk about this shit all day. I'm like always fascinated with like what you're doing. And honestly, like I like catching up like this.
Honestly, I'm probably going to start sugar diet again tomorrow.
Oh, are you?
I wasn't even thinking about it, but.
So what's the first thing that you'd eat?
I probably just start with smoothies. Just smoothies.
Blended fruit.
Blended fruit. And
add sugar.
Yeah. And I have to add sugar. Otherwise, the calories would be so low that I would just be starving.
So that's why I turned to like gummy snack. Now I started like the gummy snack thing and I got like the healthy ones or whatever. But it was that like I just didn't have enough food.
The honey is too hard to. It's just not palatable. Like it's big spoonfuls.
No, dude,
I don't know how like a lot of people are eating like a pound of honey a day.
Well, even Mark Bell was like pouring honey over his fruit, and I was
can
like,
do honey on the fruit because the fruit breaks it up. But honestly, for me, I just put the cane sugar into my smoothies.
Always fascinating, man.
Yeah, this is fun.
Yeah, we'll do it again, and I mean, I'm excited to hear. I want to go more into like Ray Peat stuff, but I think like. Yeah, we hit a lot, so we'll let you get out of here alive.
This is probably more interesting than just like a nutrition thing. So
I was like, I hope so.
Because I mean, look, at this point, like podcasts are just like, teach me this thing.
I know, I don't care about this
this
shit. Yeah, if I wanted to do that, I'd go listen to fucking I don't know,
Peter Tia.
There's some things I'd like to learn. How the fuck do you get that $300,000 watch?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's pretty good. All right, man. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Thanks, dude.